Hey there, We Can't Wrestle podcast listeners. If you haven't noticed, we have switched our server to Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple, and many, many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, and it's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So go ahead, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Highly recommended by me and everybody else here at the We Can't Wrestle podcast.
You're listening to the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Now it's time for our host, Kate Matson.
Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Nate Maxon here with you, and I am joined, of course, by my brother Aaron.
Hello.
Hello, and the one and only Mr. Archie Mitchell is with us this week.
Hold on, let me put out my sparkler. I might cause an explosion.
There was an exploding bunk bed match at Archie's house, and
Yes. It was a bigger explosion than there was last night on AEW. But
David Gold is still selling the sparklers. That's
Yes.
what's going on right now.
Yes.
Well, this week, ladies and gentlemen, on the show, we are going to go back in time and talk about the PW Torch year-end awards from 1992, one of my favorite years in the history of pro wrestling. Even though the business was kind of failing that year, the wrestling business in general on its downturn into the very low attendance of like 93 through 95. I really thought, and we'll get deeper into it, but I really thought 92 was a quality year for in-ring action, pay-per-views, et cetera, et cetera. So it's going to be interesting to talk about the year that was of 1992 here on the We Can't Wrestle podcast.
Yep. We're gonna go over theirs and then say what ours were, correct?
Or vice versa. One of the two.
Just interesting. I think we should do ours first and then see how we compared with.
I was very biased in
Keller.
mine. It was a lot of the same, so I'm going to be honest. But, you know, it
I
was a good year.
I didn't look and see what Keller put up, so
No, I didn't either.
I just wanted to be surprised or whatever.
Well, it was actually those awards are voted on by readers. I don't know how many readers he had at the time, maybe 6. I don't know, or more than that. You never know.
Well, I know that. I'm not saying Keller himself. I'm just saying.
Hey,
you know what I mean?
His awards were better than what Dave Meltzer puts out for the Wrestling Observer nowadays.
Hey, no kidding.
Everything was AEW this year. Everything
AEW promotion of the decade.
We get it. We know who's paying your bills, Dave. We understand.
Also, this week we're going to have a match review of what I thought was a really good match. Of course, I am a Memphis wrestling fan. It's Jerry the King Lawler versus Austin Idol. We'll get to that in just a moment as well. But first, I want to start off by letting you know if you're listening to the show and you are not a member of our Facebook group, please do join the We Can't Wrestle podcast Facebook group.
Yes.
And some big things coming this year for the We Can't Wrestle podcast family. And we will elaborate more on that once I get my shit together with those big things. I'm not going to make any announcements just yet because I'm still figuring things out. But I promise you folks there is something big coming for the We Can't Wrestle podcast.
We'll have news about that by at least SummerSlam.
Yes. By at least SummerSlam.
We've been purchased by Peacock.
I quit.
Actually, at this point, we'd be lucky to get purchased by Pluto TV, but we're working our way there, folks.
Wait, I want Tubi. I want down there.
Tubi. I actually really dig Pluto because
Pluto's awesome.
The Mystery Science Theater channel, I watch the hell out of that. And I love the little game show network they have on there. I like, you put some game shows on in the background when I'm working or whatever.
There's nothing wrong with Pluto.
I like Pluto. They even have like a Storage Wars channel. I love I love the channels they have. Like not that I watch it, but it's like wow, there's an entire Jersey Shore channel.
Yeah, they have one when I first got it, and I got really excited, and it said Lucha Libre AAA Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, damn, I finally get to watch Lucha Libre again because I haven't had the channel in forever. And then I went to it. It's like matches from like 18 years ago, and I'm like, damn, I don't want to watch old Lucha Libre. I want to know what's going on currently.
Or the Impact channel that they have on there. That it's like there's a 2-year span that they play shit from, and that's it.
Yep.
We're getting shit on the cheap, guys. I mean, it's not like you're paying for it.
Right.
True.
It's free.
And Pluto used to suck as a service too. It used to freeze all the time and everything, and it's so much better now.
It's grown with age, unlike Peacock.
Well, they're not paying us, so.
Yeah, I know.
One day.
maybe one day. Well, that being said, let's get the show started. And this week we have as everybody knows, a couple of months ago I had posted the wrestling mixtape post in the We Can't Wrestle Facebook group. And we've been taking matches suggested by listeners that suggested these matches. And this week, our match suggestion came from friend of the show, author, and also podcast host of his own Deathcast, Mr. Ian Totten, suggested this match. And the match is from April 27th, 1987. It is Jerry the King Lawler and Austin Idol, hair versus hair. Overall, guys. Oh, go ahead.
Speaking of Mr. Totten, he did private message me because he's in Facebook jail and said that he couldn't comment with his critique of the match, but he did send it to me. So when we're done or in between, whatever, I can read what he wrote. Oh, there's Big Kyle.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Kyle's
Ladies
here. We're
and
about
gentlemen, the forgotten son of the We Can't Wrestle podcast, Mr. Kyle Army.
Not Riker Stephen Kai, whatever that fucking guy's name is. Kyle, welcome back to your show.
Are you prepared? Do you know what we're doing?
No. What are we doing?
Well, wait. I have a bone to pick before we start anything. He left and he came back with sleeves. That ain't gonna fly here, buddy. There we go. That's better. There we go.
Oh.
Good thing this is an audio show.
Yep.
Kyle is stripping. Well, what we're doing right now, Kyle, to start off is we're reviewing Austin Idol and Jerry Lawler in the hair versus hair match from 1987. And then when we come back from the break after that, we're going to discuss 1992 year-end Pro Wrestling Torch Awards. So you wouldn't have really had to prepare for that. You can just follow along and give your thoughts. But Kyle hasn't been on in a while. We're glad to have him.
I sent a message to you guys. I took a fucking sabbatical from pro wrestling for about a month because I was like, I just need to get away from it. Because maybe I'll come back in with open eyes and a newfound love for it. And wouldn't you know, the fucking first show back was fucking AEW.
Bad choice, man. I could have told you that before you even tuned in.
The fuck
We're
did
not
I
gonna talk about it?
no, fuck? What the fuck did I watch?
Well, guess what?
It was like a kid's birthday party on 4th of July.
Sport.
Those are fun.
Not wrestling.
Those were fun.
But if it's sports entertainment, who's it for? Like,
For the elite, for Kenny Omega and Cody Rhodes and Young Bucks.
Thanks to Ian Totten's suggestion, Aaron and I got to watch a actual wrestling match this week. Again, Jerry Lawler and Austin Idol, hair versus hair, the Mid-South Coliseum, Memphis, Tennessee. That's Lawler land, baby. And these guys have a hair versus hair match. And overall, what a great match.
It was.
What a great match.
It's on, and you guys can, Nate, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but this is like the earliest thing that I've seen where the cage was all the way around the perimeter of the ring, if that makes sense.
I noticed that too. Was that like one of the first times they did that?
Probably.
So that made when did that?
Probably.
When,
Very
like not
close.
not counting that when the WCW did that or NWA did that Tower of Doom thing. That but that might have been after '87.
Yeah,
Sure,
that
but
was 80.
that was 91.
no, there was a different one they did with
Oh, they
like
did?
No.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Nate knows what I'm talking about. But this
Yeah,
is
that-
the earliest I can remember.
Me too.
There's obvious reasons they did it when you get into the
Right.
match you're on why they did it. But it's the first time I remember seeing it, or first time I looking back that I see that happen.
You know what's funny about this? This is a stipulation, and how funny it is, and it's not lost on me the fact that we're talking about a stipulation match that they can actually follow through with.
Mm-hmm.
And back in this
Yeah.
day, they put their hair on the line, and that was enough to sell a ticket.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You had a fucking exploding ring match, and they couldn't follow through. Who the fuck was going to believe that was going to follow through?
At one point in Memphis, Bill Dundee's wife put her hair on the line. That's how hardcore that shit got.
And they bought a house with it.
Yeah.
The payoff.
Well, the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway from the beginning, I was like, yeah, I'm listening to Lance Russell. God damn it, listen to Lance Russell. Lawler call a match in the Mid-South Coliseum. How awesome is that?
But he's with Randy Hales.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's with Randy Hales.
Who does
But
Randy
that is
Hales
what it
know,
is.
and why? And how does he probably knows where the body? He has to know where the bodies are buried. That's the only reason Randy Hales stayed
I
employed
loved
from forever.
I love the beginning was hearing Lance yell, and all Idol's trying to tell us that he thought his manager Paul Dangerly was going to be in the ring with him, and I'm sitting there going, "Really? He actually thought that was going to fly? Like, who thinks? Yeah, my manager's just going to chill in the ring. Don't worry about it. It's okay."
And we also mentioned when we were in our group chat earlier that
Yep.
none of us had really recalled that they actually in Memphis at this time they called him Paul E. Dangerly, not dangerously.
Yep.
Paul E. Dangerly. And I even went back to jog my memory to make sure. And in the Memphis Archives YouTube page, that is what his name is. It's not. So Lance Russell was not misspeaking here. It was Paul E. Dangerly.
I asked you about it today. I was like, he did it the whole match? So was it on purpose or was it
because
in
that territory nobody can fucking pronounce dangerously? So
no, I think Paulie watched the movie with Michael Keaton and was like, I like that last name. I think I'm gonna.
Oh, that's how he got the gimmick.
Yeah,
because they said he looked like Michael Keaton. But
on what planet?
Johnny Dangerously is one of the funniest movies ever made.
My mother hung me once.
My mother hung me on a hook once. Johnny,
you fargan sneaky bastard.
You fargan sneaky bastards. I'm gonna rip off your biles and shove them up your ice hole. Roman Maroney continues to murder the English language. Or when he's rolling down the hill. Oh, my God. Anyway, sorry. Off the rails again. Back to the match.
Instantly.
Something else I was going to ask, and I don't know Nate, Arch, Kyle, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but Austin Idol, okay, became a homesteader after his plane crash because he didn't want to fly and do all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's totally understandable. If I lived through a plane crash, I'd never want to get on a motherfucking plane ever again in the rest of my life. But if that wouldn't have happened, I think Austin Idol would have been a much bigger star than what he is.
I agree with that statement. I agree with that statement. Although I think Austin Idol, and you may think it's weird that I say this because of the gimmick and everything, but I think Austin Idol would have been super successful in WCW, not so much the WWF.
I agree.
Well, I'm just saying, but in the WCW was a national company, so he would have been a bigger star than what he was just chilling in Memphis. You know what I'm saying? He would have been a big deal.
I think I agree with Nate because, I mean, yeah, Austin Idol was great athlete, great talent, muscular, but it looked like he was a hybrid of Jesse Ventura, Superstar Billy Graham, and Hulk Hogan. So one of those guys would have bitched to Vince and been like, he's got to change his gimmick. And we would have ended up with like a black-haired, slim down Austin Idol that wouldn't have played well.
Here's the biggest problem that I have with Austin Idol. I like him. He's fantastic. Problem is that he gets lost in everything else going on at the time because you have all those guys. They look the same.
Well, I mean, I agree with Kyle on that. It was, and it with all the bigger names that were out at that time, even if they didn't have the same look, no one really goes back and goes, Austin Idol was great. If you're having a conversation of great workers or great characters, he's like the last person you're going to remember as you call down a list of names.
Mostly because he didn't get the national exposure.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Right. If he would have got out there, I think he would have been a bigger deal.
But I will say this: you look at like Jerry Lawler, the same type of thing, and yeah, he ended up coming to WWF, but I think it's because he didn't look like everybody else.
Right,
is the reason why he got the chance to be. He
was unique.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is that especially at this time, everybody was like, "This is how you have to be if you're a pro wrestler." They're following the Ric Flair or the Hulk Hogan or the Lex Luger, fucking, carbon copy. This is what a pro wrestler is.
That's why Jerry Lawler, not just the only reason, but his personality mixed with the fact that the average guy would sit out in the audience and see this average looking guy that was kicking ass and taking names just like they wanted to,
Well, that's even in my notes. It says, it's amazing how this pudgy, hairy man captured an entire city and owned it and still pretty much does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
and also the other thing about Lawler,
he also has.
I understand what you're saying about Austin Idol and all that, but the other great thing about Lawler is, since he wasn't like this big, jacked up, muscular looking guy, he was like I mean, he's not an average dude.
But
he's a bigger guy. But
right.
Not being muscular, not having that physique, and all of that. Since he didn't have that, he never aged.
Right.
You know what I mean? So even when he was 50 years old, he still looked like he looked when he was like 35 years old. So it didn't look like some old man was in the ring trying to do this
until he had that heart attack on Raw. He was still able to go in the ring and still able to pull off what he was pulling off when he was in his 30s.
Well, and then too, also you gotta think he's also has the attribute that like Honky Tonk Man has, or guys like that, where it's somebody in the crowd looks at him and says, "I can take him."
Right.
Yeah.
Like that fucking right there is.
So my next note on the match: Lawler's punches are so good.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe what? I bet Lawler, and this is of wrestling that I've seen. Obviously, I've seen a little bit of Johnny Valentine. I'd say Lawler, Johnny Valentine, Terry Funk.
Nate, I know you hate him.
There was somebody else.
Nate,
you're gonna say Ronnie. You're gonna say Ronnie Garvin.
I'm gonna say Ronnie Garvin, and he needs to be on the list.
But there was somebody else that I was thinking of too, and I can't remember. It doesn't matter. But Lawler's up there with the best looking punches in wrestling history.
I agree.
When he lands a punch, it looks like he's landing a punch, and you know what? I bet it felt like a pillow because he's a pro.
And I also put and you guys are maybe gonna look at me weird, but Lawler's fantastic, and I would, even though he came before this guy, if I was going to compare like Jerry Lawler to somebody, like face Jerry Lawler to somebody in the ring, I'd compare him to?
Who?
Hulk Hogan.
For Memphis, yeah.
Because
he was the Hogan of Memphis.
Well, it's not even the fact that he was like this big baby. I'm talking like in the ring. Because face Lawler will sell and sell and sell. Like he might start the match hot and in charge, but something's going to happen and the heel's going to fuck him, and then he sells for like 20 minutes.
Oh yeah.
And then he finally makes that comeback, and then it's like the strap down. The strap down is like Hogan going, you know,
right.
And I really think that Lawler I think Hogan kind of learned that from Lawler when Hogan was in Memphis, in my opinion. I think he saw what Jerry Lawler did and was like, you know what? After he became a face, he was like, I'm going to Lawler this shit. You know what I mean? I'll sell.
You may be right.
Make the big comeback.
Well, and here's the thing that I've kind of noticed about modern wrestling and this era of wrestling. Guys like Hulk Hogan, like Jerry Lawler, like Dusty Rhodes, they aren't playing to a fucking camera. They're playing to that glass guy in the nosebleed section.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Every punch, it's gonna. It doesn't matter if you're in the nosebleed sections. You're gonna see it. You're gonna feel it. Just like taking off the shoulder straps or everything else. That's I think the biggest problem for wrestling today is people they're playing to the TV, to the actual.
They're trying to pop the fans nowadays for the wrong reasons, like a kick out. How many kickouts were there last night? In our time of wrestling, in the match we watched, Austin Idol versus Jerry Lawler, there was maybe 5 near falls in the whole match, and the match went 25 minutes.
But the problem is, Archie, that now the only moves that are over is their signature moves.
Right. And everybody's kicking out of them, so it's really not over.
Well, last night, how many... The super kick isn't fucking special anymore.
Nope.
A headlock isn't special anymore. A DDT isn't special anymore.
Nope.
And kind of relaying to that, what I have on my notes here, you guys just brought up, modern stuff. Austin Idol gets rammed into the cage here, and he blades early in this match, okay? And he's bleeding. And there should never be a cage match without blood. And if your policy is we don't bleed, then don't have cage matches.
Don't have any kind of gimmick matches that involve a weapon.
It is, yes. This this looked realistic because if I ram your head into a steel pipe or a fence, you're gonna bleed.
Yep.
And that's the point. This looks like a fight, not ballet. It looks like these two guys are fighting.
He didn't just nick himself to get a little bit of blood, Nate. It was on his arm. It was on Lawler. It was on the ref. Look, I don't believe people should have to bleed like a stuffed pig. But if you're going to blade and you're going to bleed, do it the right way that it's believable. Not like you just nick yourself and put spit on it and rub it.
Hold on. Even Hulk Hogan bled in every cage match he was in.
Right. And I agree with what you're saying. But, like, one of my favorite matches of all time is Bret Hart and Owen Hart from SummerSlam '94. And they're in a cage.
But they don't
need blood.
They told Bret and Owen, you guys aren't allowed to bleed. So Bret and Owen didn't use the cage as a weapon.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Like they didn't. If you're not going to bleed in a cage, then don't be bashing each other off of it every 5 seconds or whatever. Right. And that's not what Owen and Bret used it for. Owen and Bret used it as, okay, we're going to sell this match as it's keeping the family out.
Right. It's keeping the family out so we could stay in. Right.
Yeah. I think the WWE doesn't want them to use blood because it's barbaric. My God, we can't have people cut their heads. But yet they're fine with fucking Brock Lesnar going out there and hard-weighting somebody.
Right.
Well, it's fucking stupid. Like, I would much rather... There's a reason why that people fucking blade in pro wrestling. Because I guarantee you it's a hell of a lot easier and a lot fucking less painful than having to get fucking punched.
Taking an elbow the hard way to the head.
Dustin Rhodes, perfect example. I don't know if you guys have watched his Inside the Ropes interview, but he talks about being in the Hollywood Backlot Brawl with Roddy Piper, and they tell him you can't get blood. So he tells fucking Piper, "Fucking hit me right here on the fucking eyebrow and bust me open."
Right.
What happens? Piper breaks his fucking hand trying to fucking do it.
But he wanted to get the blood. And
let's not. You can't blade though because
Lawler controls the first part of this match, and then
which he
yes, and again it looks like a fight, and then Austin Idol corrects him with a foreign object to turn the tide in the match, and then we go back and forth in the middle of the match. The match progresses. You progressively get.
They danced.
The action builds
through the whole match. It was a nice, solid dance.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Two pros having a hell of a good wrestling match.
Nate, this is what I'm missing from wrestling nowadays, and I'll say this match. Someone once said that wrestling and boxing is like a game of chess. We each take a turn making a move. And if my move doesn't look legit enough, then it throws it all off. Mm-hmm. That's what this match was. It was a chess match between two men who couldn't stand each other and were having a legit fight, according to the Memphis audience. That's what made this match so good. You had two guys who were, okay, you're going to beat the crap out of me for 10 minutes, and then I'm going to beat the crap out of you for 5 minutes, but then you're going to do something underhanded and beat the crap out of me for the duration.
And everything we do is going to look like a fight, and it's going to be logical.
Right.
And then you add the credibility of the announcer, and I'm going to tell you this right now.
Yep.
The announcer is, okay, the referee is the third man in the ring. The announcer is the fourth man that makes the match on TV. Because
without a doubt.
There's a ref bump here inside a steel cage match. And the minute that happens, instead of just screaming like they would now, the referee is down, and me going, why does that matter? Lance Russell takes the time to explain why that is significant. Because if the referee, yes, this is no disqualification, but if the referee is down, Austin Idol can't pin Lawler. So he can't win the match. Or vice versa, yes. Well, he takes the time, you know what I'm saying? He takes the time to be an analyst and let you know why that is significant.
And here's the biggest thing about it, too, is the fact that, in my opinion, and I think anybody that knows pro wrestling and watched this for as long as we have, the face is always going to have the upper hand on the heel.
Mm-hmm.
Always walks in there, and the heel knows that face is going to beat the shit out of them. And it's only when the heel does something heelish that he gets the upper hand, because he wouldn't have to do that if he could beat the face.
Right.
Exactly.
But everybody's too concerned with being a cool heel now. And it's like, no, I want that shit heel.
Mm-hmm. Aaron, any new notes? But where we're at in the match here, we're to the ref bump.
No, you guys are doing good.
And that's
Thank you. I've done this a few times.
Like I said,
this is my one compliment of the show. After this, I'm just gonna be shitting on everybody.
I understand that it's no disqualification, but maybe the point of a ref bump is it should be sold as oh fuck, now the ref's down. Now that heel can do anything he
wants.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no.
And it also makes both the guys in the ring in parallel, because now when Austin Idol's going for the pin, he can't win. Same with Jerry Lawler. So now they're on equal footing. Well, I can't win and you can't win, so we just got to beat the shit out of each other for a little longer.
Well, it's the perfect example of the greatest heel and the greatest bad guy of all, or the greatest
right.
Batman Joker.
Mm-hmm.
Batman's not going to kill the Joker because of his morals. The same with the good face. They're not going to cheat. Not going to,
Yeah. Absolutely. They need each other. It's the yin and the yang. Lawler hits I'll say it like Lance Russell does. Lawler hits a fucking hell of a pile driver on Austin Idol here. And then Tommy Rich comes in to interfere.
As from out of nowhere, because Lance Russell cannot figure out where
and that's another thing that I was going to give a huge credit to Lance Russell. From the minute Tommy Rich hits the ring to the minute we fade to black, as an investigative reporter, he's like, where did Rich come from? Where did Rich come from?
I can't wait to see the replay because I want to see where Tommy Rich
came from. Where the fuck did Rich come from? Uncle Lance is about to start swearing here like, God damn it, Hales!
Before we get to that, I want to...
Oh, gosh, I don't know, Lance.
I want to reiterate the fucking pile driver. Good God. I don't know if it's... Well, I know what it is. It's because people sold it like it was fucking devastating.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And in reality, if you're talking about the way that a move looks or the way that a move, Dr. Sam Shepard, he invented the mandible claw because he knew how the human body worked and he knew where that vein was, and et cetera, et cetera. A good wrestling move, when used well in a wrestling match, that's the point, is it makes sense. Like, you would never nowadays, and I don't want to get off on the current product thing, but nowadays, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pile drivers a match,
if they let them, because it's not really legal.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean. I guess I should say moves with the impact of a pile driver.
Right.
You know, and
it's like Jimmy Cornette said. Jimmy Cornette said on multiple occasions that if the person doing the fucking pile driver knows what they're doing, it's one of the safest moves in wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right.
Like he said hundreds of times he'd rather take a fucking pile driver from like Jerry Lawler than a torture rack from Lex Luger, because Lex Luger don't know what the fuck he's doing.
Right.
That's you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't say Lex Luger, but I'm just using that as an example.
Right.
No, of course.
And the reason the pile driver's not fucking allowed anymore is because guys are going out there going 100 fucking miles an hour and not being safe.
Mm-hmm.
When here's the thing. Lawler, Taker, guys who use that move, Kevin Sullivan, it looks believable when they do it, because it makes me question, hey, did that guy really just hit his head? You know what I mean? Like when Austin got paralyzed by Owen from the tombstone he delivered, I didn't know Austin hit his head because I thought it was protected, because I've always known throughout all the years of wrestling, protect the head. When they said he got paralyzed, I said, oh, wow, this was the one time that it really didn't, it was real. That was the great thing about Lawler. He delivered it and made it look real, although he had never hurt anybody doing that move.
And his pile driver almost looks like the most dangerous one ever because of the way he falls into it.
Yep.
It looks like he's just taking this guy and carelessly dropping his fucking head on the mat.
Right, and the legs are straight. Always.
Yes.
He always had his opponents. So it looked like all the weight was coming down on the guy's spine into the neck.
Mm-hmm.
And how appropriate is it? The move that always looked the most devastating are the one that it's selling to the guy in the fucking nosebleed.
Yep.
Another perfect example is when Brett would do the fucking figure four around the ring post.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It had to look. It had to look.
After Tommy Rich with the interference, they kind of messed up the spike pile driver here. I didn't note that.
A little.
But
it looked like Lawler kind of keeled over instead of being put down. But, I mean, there was a lot going on, so you really can't blame them for making one botch.
Austin Idol gets the 1-2-3 on Lawler. And then here is something important. Again, as Lance Russell is harping on, I still don't know how Rich got in there.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
About that spike pile driver, I almost prefer that sometimes.
Well,
because
you want it to look like the guy's fighting out of it a little bit more than usual.
If every single time a move looks, perfectly fucking done, it doesn't look like a real fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but if you would have saw this, Kyle, this is pretty bad.
It's been a while.
It was pretty bad.
But still, though, it's like that's the thing. Like, the problem is a lot of wrestling today looks choreographed.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, a lot.
Most. And like I said, granted, like I said, I've seen this match and it's been a while, but maybe I'm forgetting how bad it really was. But like, to me, if I see that, it's like, oh fuck, like this isn't two people fucking working together to fucking put this move on. This is,
these two guys, and this one guy, excuse me. These two guys have the advantage on this one guy, and he doesn't want to be in this position. He's not helping them set it up, But here's what I was going to say: the so important here, especially in an area like Memphis with a wrestler like Jerry Lawler. And Archie, you tell me what you think if you think I'm spot on here. Here's why the end of this was perfect, and Aaron, you too. It was perfect because Rich and Idol did not immediately go into shaving Lawler's head.
Oh no!
They walked around the ring. They jaw-jacked the fans. They
beat up the referee.
They built the anticipation of the crowd. The crowd's almost thinking, "Oh, maybe it won't happen to Lawler," And then,
even when they got him on the chair, they still were like, let's kick the shit out of him again.
Let's beat him up again.
He ain't been beat up properly yet.
And then his credit is sitting there taking his ass whipping.
And then, and most importantly, they delivered on the stipulation. And they cut Jerry Lawler's hair. Yep. And that's probably another reason they made it a cage match, so that those people could not rush the ring. Because, the Memphis fans and Jerry Lawler, even in 1987, it was still real to them, damn it.
I
Oh,
forgot
hillbillies believe, man. Hillbillies believe.
I forgot which announcer it was, but I think it might have been Joey Styles on an episode of ECW, a later episode. They had a hair versus hair match, and like a month before, it was Triple H versus Kevin Nash in WWF for a hair versus hair match. And Styles said on the mic, "A hair versus hair match means that you get your head shaved bald, not that you get a fun new hairdo." That's what was great about this match. Lawler didn't get to have like a shaved head and look cool like he just got out of the army. He actually got his head shaved.
Yes.
They actually delivered on their promise, which is always great, rather than it just be, hey, we're going to give you a fade in the back and a little shape up in the front. Don't worry about it. You're going to look cool tomorrow when you walk out in front of the fans.
Well, I got to tell you, guys, overall, I thought this was great. I mean, I've seen this match quite a few times, but watching it to analyze it for the show was really good. And I give this match 4 out of 5 stars.
Same. I give it 4 as well.
I agree.
It delivered on all cylinders. It was what it was supposed to be. And like you guys, this is the first time I saw the match, and I seen it was 30 minutes long on YouTube. I'm like, okay, good. I'll watch it. And then the last 10 minutes, like you said, Nate, were them kicking Lawler's ass and just trying to shave his head. So I'm like, oh, okay. So the match was really only like 15 minutes long, but
and if
they
I believe
delivered 30 minutes.
And I believe folklore is that they did the ball shot thing on the pole because Lawler was going to go get snipped.
Oh,
and they even used like Lawler had him go through and film his vasectomy and use it as like
they used it. You used it as
surgery coverage.
Wow,
ruptured his testicle and all this shit. Yeah, so this thing, there was a lot to this. Do we have any more to review on it?
No, we do not.
Okay, well, if you guys don't mind, I'll go ahead and read what Ian said, since it was his match.
Thank you, Mr. Cotton, for giving us a good match to watch, brother.
All right, this is from Ian. I'm going to share my thoughts on the Lawler/Idol match with you here, because I'm still in Facebook jail. This is my absolute favorite cage match. The build-up is tremendous, and even though I hate Paulie in every facet, he was excellent here. Idol was so good in this match, it might be the best thing he ever did. Tommy Rich was great as well. The finish of this match was masterfully done. Lawler bleeding and pretty much unconscious in the chair, while the heels play it up before shaving his head. Then the heat from the crowd, with them surrounding the cage, may be the last real heat in wrestling where someone's life was actually in danger. And then he says, like, if you've never seen this match or this entire angle, this video is it. Which I know what video he's talking about on Facebook. There's this deal that somebody has like an hour and a half of like all the shit that led up to this match. But that's Ian's take on the match, and we appreciate him for one being a loyal listener. He's been one of our first ones.
What was his name again?
Ian Totten.
Ian Totten.
I thought you said Ian Rotten. Not Ian Gotten. But...
No,
not Axel's brother. Not Axel's brother.
He can't spell and write. Put
Ian Rotten
together.
Ian Rotten wouldn't know a good match if it broke out in front of him.
Although Nate and Aaron are about to become very close to Ian Rotten because they're getting to that point.
Well, I just said on Reliving the Extreme this week, Ian Rotten looks like what it would look like if a pile of dirty laundry was a human. So
good call. Good call.
Yeah. But thank you, Ian, not Rotten, Totten for suggesting this match. And check out Ian, the Deathcast. Check out his podcast as well, looking into the macabre and things like that. It's a very cool show, and he does have a Facebook group for that as well. So join up there.
Does he need the admin?
Archie is the Swiss Army admin. Yes, he is.
Only an admin in 3. 3 groups. I don't know where this folklore came around that I'm an admin in 300 groups.
Actually, Archie, I'm thinking about starting an OnlyFans. Will you be my admin for that?
Can I get naked?
I mean, if you want to.
All right, we're going to take a break while these two oil each other up or whatever's going on here. We'll take a break when we come back.
The only fan I want to see of you is behind you, buddy. That's the only one. I'm just saying.
When we return, We will be discussing the year of 1992 in professional wrestling, going through the Pro Wrestling Torch year-end awards from 92. We'll be right back after this with more of the We Can't Wrestle podcast.
Woo. The We Can't Wrestle podcast. The King listens to it. WWE Hall of Famer Jerry the King Lawler, and you better listen to it too. My friend Nate and the We Can't Wrestle podcast.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Nate, Aaron, and Archie are here with you. As we went to our break, Kyle decided he was he's a big man, so he needed some fast food. So he'll be back when he can. He'll be back in the show. But we are going to be discussing, well, I don't know. Maybe I'm not going to speak for you guys. The last time we did one of these, the Pro Wrestling Torch Awards, we did 97, which is my favorite year in pro wrestling history. And one of my other favorite years in pro wrestling history is 1992. And
it's up there for me.
Okay. We're going to discuss the Pro Wrestling Torch newsletter awards for 1992. And then, of course, our suggestions or our picks for these different categories. And let's start with the Pro Wrestling Porch.
Here's Sparky. Here's Sparky.
That's going to be my newsletter.
The Pro Wrestling Porch, I think is isn't that Midwest Independent Star Tom Stevie's
yes, it is.
Podcast.
Inside joke, folks. And Kyle is with us now.
Great Scott.
Great Scott.
Did you bring me my Baconator boy?
Marty, there's something wrong with your kids. I think pro wrestling today is actually good.
And they're trying to cancel Eminem and Mr. Potato Head.
There we go. Kyle, like I explained to the guys, what we will do is I will give the award here for 1992 for the Pro Wrestling Torch newsletter year-end awards, and you guys can we'll all give our picks for who we thought should have won the award for that year.
Okay. Kyle didn't make a list, so
a little.
He can come off the top.
He can work on a fly here.
Yeah.
So the first award for 1992 for the Pro Wrestling Torch year-end awards is MVP of 1992. And before I give what the readers of the Torch went with, let me go here. We'll start first with Archie. Who is your MVP for 1992?
It's got to be the Nature Boy. In my opinion, Ric Flair in 92, having came into the WWF, led on every category, and he fired on all cylinders, whether it was a promo, a match with Jumping Jim Powers, or, being in the main event of WrestleMania. Didn't matter.
Aaron?
Bret Hart.
Okay.
Bret Hart was, in my opinion, probably the best wrestler in North America in 1992. I know that's probably saying a lot, but in my opinion, that's the way it was. And I think that in 92, Bret became Bret, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
Kyle, what would you say? Who was the MVP of 1992? Not necessarily best wrestler, but just the MVP, the most valuable player in 92.
In 1992, you know what? There's a great Bret Hart, but I got Ric Flair as well.
Kyle is also going with Ric Flair, and I can see why you'd say that. Now, mine, to be honest with you guys, I have a different pick than everybody else.
Okay.
I went with Randy Savage for 1992.
Okay, still a good pick.
He had a very solid. He had a very solid year. Finished up his feud with Jake Roberts. Had a great match at WrestleMania with Flair. We'll get to that later. He even pulled a good match out of the Warrior at SummerSlam that year.
Yep.
And then just in general, I think Randy had a great year in 92. Here's who the Torch readers picked for MVP of 1992.
Can I take a guess?
Sure.
Is it Sting?
No, Sting's not here. Sting's not here.
Some Japanese guy?
No.
Okay.
Number three was Bret Hart.
Okay.
Number 2 was Rick Rude, who I think had a super 1992.
He did.
Yeah.
And number 1 was Ric Flair.
Woo!
But yeah, I mean, you
Well,
can't
a bunch of people
argue.
can be wrong sometimes. It's okay.
You can't argue with the Royal Rumble 92 for Flair. Well, we'll get into the matches and stuff later. The MVP one, I don't want to dig into it too much because it'll kind of spoil our opinions for the rest of the awards. So let's just roll on to best wrestler, best overall wrestler of 1992. Archie, start us off.
Well, I said this in the beginning part of the show that a lot of my list was kind of biased.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I went with Ric Flair because, as I said about with the MVP, he was getting good matches out of everybody he was in the ring with at this time. Whether it was Jim Powers on an episode of Superstars, whether it was Jim Neidhart, which Neidhart was a great talent. I'm not, putting anything past him.
Right.
But Ric Flair was the end-all, be-all of the WWE at this time, considering you had guys like Randy Savage, Bret Hart, Hulk Hogan, Undertaker, Jake Roberts. Flair was always at the front of the card. So I go with Flair for best wrestler.
And, some of the performances that I'm just going to say it. He was also my draw for best wrestler of the year.
Yes.
But some of the performances that match at WrestleMania 8 with Randy Savage.
They told a story, boy. It was awesome.
Absolutely. Also, getting to Saskatoon. Aaron was talking about when this is the year Brett became Brett. That Saskatoon match is fantastic.
Yep.
And like Archie said, Flair, when he got in the ring with anybody in the WWF, from the lowliest jobber to the main eventer.
Yep.
Other than the matches he had with Hogan, apparently in Oakland, that sucked.
Right. That was on our house show. Thank God we never got to see him.
Yeah. Aaron, who was your pick for best wrestler of 1992?
Bret Hart. I kind of spoiled it when I said that I thought Bret was doing the best work in 92. Bret was the man in 92, man. Like, he was having great matches with everybody. I mean, Flair was fantastic, don't get me wrong, but you're saying like, oh, well, Flair had this match in Oakland with Hogan, and it was kind of a turkey and this, that, and the other thing. But fucking Bret was on fire in 92. And little kid me was just like, oh, fucking Bret's the man.
Yeah, I mean, you had Bret.
And he had a great Intercontinental run in 92. And
he had the big match with Piper, the great match with Piper at WrestleMania 8.
He did.
The match with Davey Boy at SummerSlam.
Hell, even his matches with the Mountie were good.
Well, I mean, he even has on the pretty much. Other than when it was resurrected in 2008 or whatever, on the last Saturday night's main event in 92, he had a really, really good match with Papa Shango.
Yep.
Yeah. Brett and Shawn at fucking Survivor Series.
Yeah.
The forgotten Survivor Series, like the weirdest Survivor Series in the history of Survivor Series. Brett and Shawn, man, fucking. They saved that fucking turkey. That's one of the worst pay-per-views ever broadcast. They fucking saved it.
Kyle, oh, go ahead, Archie.
It's easy to say neither one of them were having sunny days just yet.
Oh. Kyle, who was your pick who would be your pick for best wrestler of 1992?
I'm going to go with Bret Hart, and I know I said the MVP is Flair.
Right. Well, and the MVP and the best wrestler aren't necessarily going to be the same guy.
No, but
there's years where Hulk Hogan would be the MVP, but he was not definitely the best wrestler.
Right.
Rick, how do I want to put this? Ric Flair, because of the Royal Rumble and everything, I personally think that he made the Royal Rumble special.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can say what you want to say about WrestleMania 8, that it's, it was really Psycho Sid or...
I love WrestleMania 8.
I do too.
But here's the thing, like, for all intents and purposes, that was the title match. Ric Flair versus Randy Savage.
Should have been the main event.
But Bret Hart, overall, throughout the entire year, I mean, you look at SummerSlam, you look at just anything, as Aaron said, Aaron eloquently put, Survivor Series.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say Flair was on the downspin of his career, but Brett was definitely on the ups.
Oh, without a doubt.
So here's what the Torch readers voted for Best Wrestler of 1992. Number 3, Shawn Michaels. Coming on up, Shawn Michaels. Number 2, Bret Hart. And number 1, Ric Flair.
Woo!
All right, so the best heel of 1992, Archie?
I'm going to be going with Rick Rude this time around. Ravishing Rick Rude in 92. Battles with Steamboat, Rhodes, Sting, Wyndham, Pillman, and just all around his body of work in WCW, but 92 especially. Mm-hmm. Rick Rude, in my opinion, was the best heel ever.
And I will set him at that emotion, that's emotion that Archie gave, because that was my pick. Rick Rude in 92. Part of me feels like the reason that it was so great was because when Rick went there, he wasn't just going there to go there. He was going there and
to take over.
And to take over. And also he wanted to go there and basically give a fuck you to like Vince McMahon or Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
I think he wanted to go into that fucking company and be like, you know what? You guys don't think that I'm good enough to be the tippy top guy. I'm going to go in here and fucking show you what you lost.
And night one, he showed up. He showed that.
And in 91, he showed up in like October, so he didn't have like a lot of time to do it. But 92, man, that fucking
he
feud,
exploded.
That feud with him and Steamboat and whatnot, it's fucking fantastic.
Beach Blast, that match gives me chills that they had at Beach Blast.
And what I will say on this, and he wasn't my pick, but he would definitely be up there for that year. What I will also say on this is, I don't know, and to what Aaron was kind of saying about Rude coming in wanting to prove, look, I'm the fucking man, okay? This is Rick Rude's 91 to 93, 94 WCW run is the best of his career.
Yep.
And I'm going to tell you, here's where it really comes down to it, okay? Not only the work in the ring, but I want anybody that's an old school wrestling fan to go back, look at think about Rick Rude in Dallas, all right? He was in shape, but he was skinny with a big head, okay? Yep. And then go to Rick Rude in the WWF. He was in shape, but he looked almost too in shape, if that makes sense.
A little sickly. He looked sick, but in shape. I don't know what it was.
Yeah. Rick Rude in WCW from 91 to 93, 94 was in the best real shape of his career. He looks so good, and he works so good.
And his character was different, too. Like, his character wasn't like, he did, like, the hip swivel thing.
Right.
And the kiss and everything like that.
Well, I mean, you got to
his character in WCW wasn't like, oh, I'm the sexiest. I mean, he was like, I'm a sexy guy. But it wasn't like, I'm the sexiest man in the world. His character in WCW was, I'm a good-looking dude, but I'm going to beat your ass.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I am an ass-kicking son of a bitch, and I'm not just some good-looking guy. I'm a fucking man. You know
he
what
left
I mean?
the Chippendale dancer. He left the Chippendale dancer into WWF, and he came here to be a badass. And he was, like I said, he debuted at Halloween Havoc as the Halloween Havoc Phantom, and right from the get, he cut a promo and then went in the ring and beat somebody's ass in 5 minutes. So he was, like Aaron said, he was there to prove Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan wrong, and he did.
Kyle? Best heel of 1992.
All right, so I'm gonna preface this by saying yes, I agree that it's Rick Rude.
Hey, good job, Nate. Who you got? I'm kidding, buddy. Wait, hang on just a second. But
Rick Rude is still, at the time, even though he's a heel and he's a hated wrestler, he's still like that cool, like still the fans,
Of
like
course.
the smart. You want to talk about heel. In my opinion, now, like I said, I'm prefacing this with saying I agree with Rick Rude. I'm saying actual heel. People everyone fucking hates. It's fucking IRS.
Oh, that's
Not a horrible choice.
That's a. I mean, it's an out of the box choice,
Right?
Think about it. Because like with Rick Rude, you still had those people cheering for him. You had the fans that the ladies who loved him.
His diehards, right?
IRS is hated by everybody. Like all you fucking tax cheats and
Was the tie.
So my pick for heel
Was definitely the tie.
My pick for best heel of 92. Personally, I'm a big fan of monster heels, so I got to go with Vader.
Okay.
Because in 92, Vader had a really good year, and Vader, to me, personally, although there may at some points in their careers be monster heels that I guess I like better, the reason that I love Vader and Bam Bam as my two favorite monster heels ever is because they're monster heels who are even more of a monster because they can fucking wrestle.
Right.
You know what I mean? They can bring it in the ring. And I just think, Vader had great matches with Sting in 92, Ron Simmons in 92. Overall, just a great year. He's my pick for heel.
It's a good pick.
Now, here's what the torch readers said. Number 3, my guy, Mr. Vader. Number 2, Ric Flair. And number 1, the consensus, I think, between Archie and Aaron, Rick Rude. Wins out 1992.
I'm 3 for 3.
All right. Archie, who was the best babyface of 1992?
In my opinion, there's no doubt it has to be Sting for 92.
He had a great year.
Sting was the flag bearer for WCW through and through. He was the next in line to take the belt off Flair, and then Flair left, and he got stuck with, a feud with Lex Luger, which was still a good feud when Luger attacked him at the Clash and hurt his leg, and then he had to wrestle Rick Rude for the United States title with a bum knee, and but Sting was always the baby face in peril and the main guy for WCW when it came to being a face. So,
Aaron?
That was my selection as well, was Sting. And the reason being is that Sting was the best babyface because, like Archie said, he was like the face of WCW.
Right.
Like WWE or WWF, like Savage is great, 92, but they never completely got rid of like Hogan. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like they never pushed Hogan away. And Brett was up there and everything like that. But in WCW, it was, this is our guy. Sting,
right.
Sting. Like to me, Sting was the premier babyface in 92 because it was him. You know what I mean? Like this
when
is
they
our
did a
guy.
Thunderdome or they needed an 8-man team, it was always Team Sting. It was never anybody else taking the lead. So,
yeah,
Kyle?
I'm gonna have to go with Sting as well.
It is a general consensus because I also went with Sting, and I almost went Savage, but then I kind of fell. Actually, as I was thinking about it, I actually fell. Before I made my picks, I didn't even look. You know what I mean? I didn't want to look at the Torch Awards.
Yeah.
Because you want to think about it on your own and have your own thought process.
Right.
You don't want to be influenced by what you see.
I'm finding out now when you're telling me who was the winner. So
I kind of fell into the same thought you guys did in that although Randy was probably my personal favorite babyface of the year.
Right.
If I'm saying best babyface of the year, well, fuck, Sting as a babyface was pretty much the babyface of that company.
Until Hogan got there, it was all Sting.
Yeah, so I definitely agree. So we 4 for 4. We're all consensus. It was Sting. Let's see what the Torch readers voted. 1992 Face of the Year. Number 3, Randy Savage.
Of course.
Number 2, Bret Hart. And number 1, Sting. So there you go. Sting swept it. 5 for 5 between the four of us and the readers of the torch in 1992 as best babyface of the year. Here we go. Next category, guys. Best TV show of 1992.
I was tossed up a little bit, but when it all came down to it in 92, 6:05 on Saturday night, WCW Saturday Night was the best show. From top to bottom for that 1 hour, and you wanted it to be longer, actually, because you would always hate that they'd have to end at 7:05. But you'd wait for it, and then they'd give you a decent opener. They'd give you a couple of enhancement talents getting beaten by the bigger guys, the better guys. They'd give you a great promo leading you to next week's show about, either the Rock and Roll Express having a fight with, whoever it was going to be, or Jim Cornette would have something to say. And then you'd get a classic main event of like an Arn Anderson taking on a Barry Windham, and it was like perfect. It ended perfectly.
The only thing I would say that I dislike greatly about WCW Saturday Night in 1992, I am absolutely, positively not a fan of Rhubarb Jones. He's like one of my least favorite ring announcers. I hate Rhubarb Jones, man. Fuck
so you're more of a David Penzer guy.
Yeah, I'll take David Penn. I'll take Justin Roberts over Rhubarb Jones. John Cena. I'll take that over Kenny Omega. The Wrestling Observer.
Yep.
Wrestler of the millennium.
And he lives in North Carolina. I don't know why they say that during every entrance. He lives in North Carolina.
Anyway, sorry.
Aaron,
Saturday night was a good show. Aaron, your pick for best TV show of 92?
Well, like I said, I'm going to preface this that I never read any of the Torch Award things or whatever, because honestly, I don't really care about Torch Award. I shouldn't say I don't care about Torch Awards. I didn't want to be jaded, like Nate said.
Right.
But I've been going through, and 92 was fun because I've been looking at these. I've been watching a lot of older stuff, and the older stuff I'm watching, I'm kind of into this year. And I found, so I've been watching WCW Saturday Night, like Archie said.
Right.
I've been watching Superstars. I've been watching this stuff, and I found a thing on YouTube that had every episode of this company, and out of everything I went back and rewatched, the best show in 1992 was Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
You fucker. Okay. That was my pick. Smoky Mountain Wrestling is also my pick for best show of 92. And I want to tell you guys something, all right? In 1992 or 1993, this is I'm going to go off on it's not a tangent, it's just a side story. Aaron and my grandmother used to live in Tennessee. All right. And every year for 2 weeks in the summertime, we would go down and stay with our grandma. Okay? And I would be so excited because there was this weird, I was maybe 13, 14 years old, if that. There was this weird pro wrestling program down there that we couldn't get up in Ohio, and it was a Smoky Mountain Wrestling thing. And when we were down there for those 2 weeks, I would watch as much Smoky Mountain Wrestling as I could because it was cool as shit. And then I'd have to go home, and I'd be like, well, what's going to happen to Smoky Mountain wrestlers between now and next year? And it was but it was so cool, and it was just so different from everything we were seeing on TV then. Right. Because back then I was a little kid. I didn't understand territory wrestling. I hadn't watched all this old stuff from Georgia and all this stuff that I'm very fluent on now. That is the best wrestling TV show of 1992. I agree with Aaron. And I just, when I was thinking about these awards and stuff, I just, you get that nostalgic memory going in your head. Right. But I was just like, I remember being at Grandma's house watching Smoky Mountain Wrestling, not knowing what the fuck I was watching, but knowing that it was really cool.
Yeah. And 92, it gets better. And honestly, if we do the next time you go, oh, what's the best show in '93? Guess what? I'm going to tell you, it's fucking Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Like
The only reason
Smoky Mountain was never bad, and I'm up into like almost in a '95, and it's stuff I'd never seen before. Like Nate said, it's like a regional promotion, and when it was going on, I hadn't seen it, but watching it now, I thoroughly believe that if I would have been able to watch Smoky Mountain Wrestling in its entirety in '92, like I could sit on YouTube and watch it now,
right.
I would tell you guys in 1992, Smoky Mountain was the best wrestling company. It was fantastic.
See, that's the only reason it wasn't at the top of my list, and I went with Saturday Night, because I only started watching Smoky Mountain Wrestling over the last couple of years, so I didn't have it as a wrestling show back then.
Yeah.
Had I had it back then, I would have been all for it.
And see, I understand that, but I wasn't trying to go with the
No, I know that.
my childhood thoughts or whatever. I'm going off what I watch now, and pretty
I'm
much
a big kid, Aaron. I'm just a big kid.
I understand that. But like Smoky Mountain was great because it was just it didn't
booking
try
101.
and it didn't attempt. This might sound dumb, I don't know, but Smoky Mountain, Jim Cornette's Smoky Mountain didn't try to pretend to be something that it wasn't.
Right.
Kyle, what was your pick for best TV show of '92?
I'm going to have to go off.
What's that?
I'm going to go off of what I was watching back then, and it's got Prime Wrestling.
Well, Primetime was good in '92 also. Yeah.
Because, like I said, 92 was kind of the year that I really started. 91, 92 was the years I started getting into wrestling because of my grandmother. And so I have these fond memories of watching Primetime Wrestling and stuff, And honestly, you can say what you want to say about, Saturday Night and Smoky Mountain, but, I enjoyed the fact that, like, they broke up the matches and stuff. You had the fucking hilarious shit between Monsoon and Heenan.
Well, and I was going to say 92 was the year they started doing the round table where they had like Vince McMahon, Hillbilly Jim, Mr. Perfect, know, and all those guys around the table. They even did the one night angle when Warrior quit to get to the Survivor Series with Mr. Perfect becoming.
Who won't forget? Yeah. I'll never forget seeing Bobby Heenan walk out with the fucking WCW world title and said, "The real world's champion." You're like, what?
Oh,
yep. I mean, as a kid, all I kept saying, it's really, even though it was all blurred out, all I kept thinking as a kid was, oh my God, it's the real title. Oh my God, how are they doing this? How is this happening? And then as an adult, I read up on it and I was like, oh, so Ric Flair just like took the belt with him. I understand. Yeah. It's like, fuck you, this is my belt.
So here's what the torch readers voted. Best TV show of 92. Number 3, WWF Primetime Wrestling. Number 2, WWF Superstars of Wrestling. And number 1, guess what? Smoky Mountain Wrestling came in number 1 with the torch readers in 1992. Wow.
That actually surprised me.
Me too.
Me.
Damn cheaters. What, you read the result? No, I'm just kidding. I'm only kidding.
All right, guys. Next category, 1992 Archie Match of the Year.
And this is again where I said I was biased. For me, it would have to be the 1992 Royal Rumble. The match in itself was star power after star power. There was nobody in that match that didn't deserve to be there. You had the feud going on between Randy Savage and Jake Roberts. So when Savage got in the ring and he chased Jake out, you had Roddy Piper coming off fresh from the Intercontinental title match that he just won and having his a mini feud with Flair in the ring. Hogan and Sid Justice battling for power, who was the bigger name. And then Flair going from number 3 all the way to the World Heavyweight title.
Mm-hmm.
It's a perfect Royal. It's the best Royal Rumble.
Oh
and
yeah,
it's a perfect Royal Rumble. That they could have put together.
One of the coolest spots, and it's not even. I shouldn't even say spot because there wasn't any like physical thing. One of the coolest things they do in it is I don't even know if it was intentional. It probably was because Pat Patterson was a fucking genius. But when Flair comes out as number 3, DiBiase's leaving, and DiBiase's leaving. Flair's coming in, and they kind of look at each other, and you guys might disagree with this, but it's like DiBiase's walking out from being the top heel in the company to Flair coming in to being
passing of the torch.
That symbolism was not lost on me. No, I thought that years ago. Yeah, that's absolutely.
Like DiBiase was never the champ, but that whole time he was there, he was the top.
Oh yeah,
mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And let's not forget.
I'm just glad I wasn't the only person that ever saw. Saw that.
It's noticeable.
That is one of my favorite Bobby Heenan things of all time. And he's like, Piper.
Oh God, it's fantastic.
Like, it's a kilt. It's not a skirt.
It's not a skirt. It's a kilt. And he turns around. He's like, "Why you no good skirt wearing?"
I love when Flair comes out. He's just like, "God damn it, God damn it, God damn it!" And Monsoon's like, "Nobody's ever won the Royal Rumble that came out from 1 to 9 through 1 through 5." And Bobby's just like, "God damn it, God damn it!" He's like, "Do you hear what I said? I'm not listening to you, Monsoon." Like,
it's not fair to Flair.
So, Aaron, what was your pick
for match of the year? 92.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jushin Liger versus Brian Pillman from Super Brawl.
Wow.
A fantastic match.
Great match.
Fantastic match.
Great match.
And an eye-opening match for American wrestling fans at that point. There had been nothing like that on American soil probably since Dynamite Kid and Tiger Mask.
It's what made me a Liger fan. It's what made me want to watch more of Liger.
That match starts out, and nobody in that building has any idea what's about to happen. And they're watching it, and by the end of it, nobody's sitting down.
Yeah.
It's flawless. And even like, do you ever hear like a point where like you can tell like a commentator isn't just collecting his paycheck? Like every commentator is going to go out there and try to be like, "Oh, this is the greatest thing you've ever seen." That's their job. But
yeah,
Jesse Ventura in that match, as it's going, it's just like, Jesus Christ! Like this is like if he could stand and be like, "This is fucking fantastic," he would stand up and say, "This is fucking fat." Yeah, like he's like, "This is amazing."
It's like with Jesse with this. It's like when the Spirit Squad screws Shawn Michaels and JR's like, "This is bullshit." Like he got lost in the story.
Bullshit. Yeah, he just got caught up in it, and it's a fucking clinic.
It is.
And if anybody wants to talk about, how do I say it? Like, oh well, you gotta have these spots and this, that. Like, like you guys are talking about like choreographed matches and shit now or whatever. It's like, why don't you sit down, fucking Ray Phoenix and fucking Pac, and be like, "Hey guys, how about you watch what Brian Pillman and Jushin Liger did in '92?"
Right.
And instead of just doing what fuck all that you're doing right now, watch what these guys did. Like Brian Pillman was able to do all this shit. Jushin Liger was able to do all this shit, and it looked believable. And they looked like fucking athletes when they did it. They didn't look like fucking gymnasts.
Kyle, what is your vote for match of the year for 1992?
We've heard a long time Vince McMahon doesn't fully get behind until he truly falls in love with them. And I think this match that kind of started the whole shift. We don't need the big guys to be the main events. I think it's Bulldog versus Bret Hart.
Very fantastic match.
It is a good match.
Like,
And you know what?
hey,
The Bulldog was going to win the title whether he wanted to.
Or not.
yeah.
And he was high on coke, according to Brett in his book.
Yeah. But no.
What a wonderful thing to say about your deceased brother-in-law in your book.
I
He was high on coke.
look. I don't mean to go off on a tangent here.
No, in his book, honestly, Brett says that Neidhart, he had been trying to call Davey to talk about the match. He couldn't get a hold of him. And Neidhart finally called him. And Brett was like, "Hey, Neidhart, where's Davey?" And he goes, "Oh, he's been doing a bunch of, but he's just been doing nothing but coke for the last month." And Brett's like, "How do you know that?" And Neidhart's like, "Well, he's been doing it with me."
Right.
Brett one of those. What?
I love the honesty. That answer.
He's been doing it with me.
Brett's just one of those guys that no matter what, he's gonna bitch. He is. I'm serious.
I know, but that's one of my favorite wrestling stories.
He's the kind of guy that if you gave him a chocolate cake, he'd be pissed because it isn't fucking vanilla.
This cake was stale.
What am I supposed to do with this cupcake? But no, I agree that match is, I mean...
No, it's a great match.
Absolutely fantastic.
About this, in front of 80,000 people. Like,
in the Bulldogs' home country.
Crazy. It's amazing to me that SummerSlam doesn't get talked about more than it does.
Right.
Because behind WrestleMania 3, like, that was their biggest fucking show to date.
Mm-hmm. My favorite match of 1992, my vote for match of the year, is Savage and Flair at WrestleMania 8. There's a big theme going through 92 for me, and it involves Randy Savage.
Me as well, with Ric Flair.
I love the match, and you know what? I mean, and I'm not discrediting any match anybody else brought up because they're all fantastic matches with fantastic stories. And that Royal Rumble, you know, I'm not even saying, I mean, Christ, like I said, it's the greatest Royal Rumble of all time, but Savage and Flair at WrestleMania 8 is, and I want anybody here to tell me if you get what I'm saying or if I sound stupid. But the WrestleMania 8 match between Savage and Flair almost doesn't even feel like a WWF match.
Right.
You know, does that what I'm saying make sense? Like it feels like a territory match.
It
feels like a territory feud. It feels like a territory match. It is just raw. It's so raw, and I love it.
The way that feud popped up from Randy finishing his
and it wasn't even supposed to happen. It wasn't even supposed to happen.
Right. And now they're going with Justice versus Hogan instead of Flair versus Hogan, which was the payoff. And all of a sudden, Ric Flair decides to come out and say, I slept with Miss Elizabeth. Didn't say it in a normal... He literally... I have proof.
The only thing you're going to see in those pictures, the only thing she's wearing in those pictures is a staple in her belly.
Right.
Like talking about, you know, nude pictures of her.
Right.
I just, like, to me... That is this year, and that's why, man, it's just savage for me because
same with me with Flair because everything revolved around those two wrestlers.
And Randy, and I definitely want Aaron's thought on this, and I know I'm elaborating because
go ahead.
When we record this show, people, I drink, and as I drink, I get more wordy. But anyway, Randy in '92. In the WWF, essentially got to be a territory worker. Because if you look, he had 2 real feuds in 92. I'm going to erase the Warrior thing, even though he got a good match out of Warrior at SummerSlam in the middle of the year. He had that amazing feud with Flair. And then he followed the year up or finished the year in one of the greatest feuds they ever did with Roberts. And Aaron, what do you think? Do you think I'm off base? Like Randy just had such a good year in 92.
And they were feuds based in reality.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was
WWE didn't do a lot of feuds based in reality.
It was WWF doing territory wrestling.
They do feuds where Earthquake smashed his snake and then made snake burgers out of it. And this, that, and the other thing. Or, this guy beat me up and cut my, I always just said cut my hair, but we just did like hair. But you know what I'm saying? Like, there would be things like that. Where,
and in 92, Savage
in 92, Randy Savage is great because you know what? If somebody told me that they fucked my wife and told a bunch of people that they fucked my wife, I'd want to kick their ass too.
Right.
Okay. And then if somebody came to my wedding, fucked it all up, and then smacked my wife in the middle of the ring,
right,
I'd want to beat his fucking ass too. Randy had.
I'm sorry. I went opposite there. He started the year with Jake,
right,
and then went into Flair. Yeah, I kind of went opposite there.
What I was going to interject is that if you think about it, neither one of those feuds were planned. Jake and Undertaker were supposed to feud with Warrior. Because it was the whole Jake teaching Warrior how to beat the casket, and then Warrior left after that. So Jake and Undertaker went towards Savage.
And if you want to watch some terrible shit, watch fucking Jake Snake trying to teach Ultimate Warrior how to do anything. That's trash, man.
Here's what's interesting about 92 and
They were doing coke too, Aaron.
You look at 8 when Savage is quote unquote the guy, but he's still behind Hulk.
Right.
92, looking Savage, I think, passed Hulk in popularity because people at 92 were like, all right, enough of this fucking Hulkamania shit. Like, they started to really,
But see, Hogan knew it, though, Kyle, but he refused to move out of the way of the main event. And if you think about it, when you look at modern-day wrestling in the same regards, CM Punk being the Savage and John Cena being the Hogan at WrestleMania 29, it was Punk defending the world title in the 5th match and John Cena versus Rock for no title in the main event. So it plays itself out that Hogan refused to move out of the main event. So Savage said, well, you know what? Fuck it. It's WrestleMania. I'll make this the main event.
And you know what? And I agree with you, but I think, again, I'm trying to fucking rationalize Vince McMahon, but I think the thought process might have been at that time was we really fucking screwed the pooch at fucking WrestleMania 18. We should have had Rock versus Hogan go on last. This is this generation's, Rock versus Hogan with Rock.
Right.
Let's not put it on,
the biggest thing, all right, WrestleMania 8, to talk about it for a second. The biggest thing they were protecting by putting on Hogan last was that they knew Warrior was coming out to save Hogan. Yeah. That could have been done in the middle of the show. It didn't have to be at the ending. I would have much rather seen Savage get hoisted up in the air with the world title than to see Hogan and Warrior celebrate.
The Torch readers for 92, let's see what they picked. And I'm sorry that I got my Savage feuds backwards chronologically.
You're fine.
It's okay, I fixed it.
Thank you, Aaron.
I knew what I was trying to say. But anyway, the Torch readers said number 3 for 92 was the War Games match of 1992.
Okay.
Was that Sting Squadron versus the Dangerous Alliance?
Yes.
That's fucking fantastic.
Number 2 was the Royal Rumble.
Okay.
And number 1, Pillman and Liger.
Yeah.
Nice one, Aaron. Nice one.
So, guys, let's go into our next category here. Best feud of 1992.
Sting was the best babyface, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to pick how many I was right at.
Aaron's got to stroke his ego right quick.
I want to win.
All right, best feud of 92, Archie, go.
For me, it had to be Sting versus Vader. those two signed a blood pact at the ending of 91 to have every match they possibly could against each other.
Well, I really think that, and I'm not trying to cut you off, but I really think that a lot of people think that Sting is synonymous with Flair.
He's not. Right? I agree with you, though. I know what you're saying.
No, but to me, I agree with you. I think Sting is synonymous with Vader in my brain.
Right.
Like in my wrestling fandom, Sting is actually more synonymous with Vader than he is with Flair.
Well, because from 91 to 93, Flair was in WWF. So
yeah,
Sting
from
and
91,
Vader,
yeah, it's essentially those guys.
Years, it was just Sting and Vader, and then you had Luger as the world champion, and every now and then he'd pass it on to somebody else.
Ron Simmons was in there.
But the two main guys in WCW, you had the monster heel Vader and the flagship bearer of the company, Sting. And whether it was a strap match or those hokey Halloween Havoc spin the wheel, make the deal, picture videos, or they worked well together. And it shows because throughout their entire WCW career, it always went back to Sting and Vader.
Yeah. They had that Burger King of Death match or whatever.
Yeah.
Aaron, it was White Castle of Fear. I was joking.
Yes. What's your pick, Aaron, for best feud of 92?
We just elaborated on it a lot. It's Ric Flair versus Randy Savage.
And that is, no spoiler here, that is obviously my pick, seeing as I've, elaborated on it a lot in this show. That is definitely my pick for feud of the year. Kyle?
Vince McMahon versus Ultimate Warrior.
Kyle goes for backstage feud of the year.
Good shit, pal. Or maybe bad shit. All right, so let's see what the Torch readers said.
Are we going to pause after this one?
We can. We can take a break. Best feud of 1992. Number 3, Vader and Sting. Number 2, in the USWA, Jerry Lawler and Jeff Jarrett versus the Moondogs. Stop it. If you haven't seen it, I'm a Memphis guy. But anyway, if you haven't seen it, folks,
but come on,
it really is good.
Memphis.
And number 1, my boys, Ric Flair and Randy Savage.
Oh, that's another one I can circle.
So now I guess we will take a break, if everybody's okay with that.
I guess.
I got to poop and smoke.
When we return, we still have Best Pay-Per-View, Rising Star, Career Tailspin, Tag Team, Best Promos, Worst Promos, Most Underutilized, and Most Overpushed of 1992. We'll try to make it under an hour. Jesus Christ. The We Can't Wrestle podcast will return after this.
Wait.
All right, wrestling fans, it is another 3-parter in the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Nate, Aaron, Kyle, and Archie back with you discussing 1992 in professional wrestling. Here we go. We're the next topic, Pro Wrestling Torch Newsletter Awards, Best Pay-Per-View of 92. Archie, take it away.
Again, I told you guys that I have a biased list, and I went with the entire Royal Rumble 1992 pay-per-view.
That's mine as well.
And spoiler alert, it is also mine. As much as I love WrestleMania that year, the Royal Rumble kicks the year off in a way that in the WWF and WCW, any promotion in the 90s, for sure, you'd never seen. And the Royal Rumble match is fantastic. The card leading up to it is fantastic. Overall, I think I agree.
You had guys on the lower card that weren't just there for a paycheck. They were literally there to make it a main event feel for the entire card.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And, Jake the Snake and Piper feuding throughout the entire night leading into the match. Roddy Piper getting the feel-good moment of becoming the Intercontinental Champion. And then going into the Royal Rumble, and he cuts a promo, and he's like, and I'm going to do something no one's ever done. I'm going to become a 2-time champion all in one night. You know what I mean? And then Flair's iconic promo at the end of the show with a tear in my eye is by far my favorite promo. I don't care what anybody says. I have two favorite promos in this world, and they're neck and neck. Flair's with a tear in my eye, and Shane Douglas when he thrusts down the NWA title and tells every former champion that they can kiss his ass.
I don't want to leave 1992, but I would also put up Dusty Rhodes' Hard Times promo.
No, that's in my heart. That's not a favorite. The Dusty Rhodes Hard Times is something I will quote to this day. You know, when I'm having a bad day, I put on the Hard Times promo.
Give him a watch and a kick in the butt.
Right.
You get a pig slip because a computer took your job.
Yeah. How apropos that is for today.
Yep.
Kyle, you didn't chime in there. What was your pick?
Royal Rumble 1992.
All right, we're all in agreement. So let's see what the Pro Wrestling Torch readers thought in 1992. Best pay-per-view, number 3, Super Brawl. Number 2, WrestleMania. And number 1, God damn it, it's the Royal Rumble. So there you go.
Well, circle another motherfucker.
All right, guys, 1992.
Nate,
Go ahead, Kyle. Go ahead, Archie.
you don't know what Hard Times is, Daddy. Hard Times is when some millennial tries to cancel Dr. Seuss, Daddy.
Hard times.
Give you a watch. Give you a
Hard
watch and a
times.
cat in a hat.
Hard times is when somebody gives you a watch, kicks you in the butt, and tells you how to label your potato head.
Right.
No.
Let me tell you something, baby.
No. Hold on. Hard time.
Pepe Le Pew.
Put them on eBay.
Pepe Le Pew came out the bitch looking so sweet.
All right. Rising Star of 1992. Archie Mitchell.
I had a few that I was jumbling with. I thought about Dustin Rhodes, but then I remembered that Dustin was already in WCW for a couple of years already. He, got done with the WWF and went to WCW. For me, it was Mick Foley, though. Cactus Jack.
Great pull. He had a fantastic match with Sting at Beach Brawl in 92 and was really starting to develop that Cactus Jack character.
Right, that crazy motif of him and Abdullah the Butcher fighting all over the arena all night long for no reason.
What's in the
whatsoever.
box? What's in the box? And I'm not going to discount that at all. I think that's a great poll. It wasn't my pick. I had to. Aaron, you're next, actually.
My rising star of 1992 was Stunning Steve Austin.
Good choice again.
Absolutely.
Very good choice.
He was
Stunning Steve was great. I shouldn't say great. Stunning Steve was cool in Texas, and Stunning Steve was cool in like 91 when he first got to WCW, and he was with Lady Blossom and everything like that, and was like at the time he was like the longest reigning TV champion and everything like that. But in like 92, Steve obviously became a different performer when he became Stone Cold. And Nate, you and I have talked about this. And it's like the tales of two Steve Austins,
Definitely.
Yeah,
but in
definitely.
92, Steve was fucking killing it, man, and was doing fantastic work with like Dustin and Steamboat and just fucking drilling it all night long.
He had a couple of great matches with Shane Douglas too, because they were trading the tag title. They were involved in the tag team, feud and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Steve was just on a tear.
Steve was a rising star in 92.
Without a doubt.
Kyle.
The one, the only, Eric Watts.
You're fired.
Log off. Have a good night.
No. Razor Ramon.
What's that?
Razor Ramon.
Good
Reza
pick.
Ramon.
Early in his career, but he was definitely rising.
Definitely. And he got Scott Hall was so good that he was one of those few guys that got immediately thrust into the main events, because, they saw it. You know, I mean, in reality, Scott Hall had been around since fucking 85.
Right.
You know, but absolutely the gimmick, the character really kind of coming into his own, defining himself.
You know what I've realized over the last couple of years too, Nate?
What's that?
Razor Ramon, the gimmick, was not that much different than the Diamond Stud.
Oh, no.
Except he spoke. That was the only difference.
Except Vince McMahon knew how to use him.
Right. He actually knew how. He told him, go out there and cut a promo. And he cut a promo.
Hey, yo, I cut a promo.
I fucking love when he's in that fucking restaurant and they're like, "Was this the bill?" He's like, "I tried fucking. Oh, you want me to bust my own table too?"
It is good. It's so good.
Can I say something about Scott real quick?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
You know how like people talk about like, oh, if you were going to draw a professional wrestler, okay, like, oh, like, hey, somebody that doesn't necessarily watch professional wrestling, draw me a professional wrestler. They're going to draw you Scott Hall. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like Scott had the stature, he had the size, he had the he had the look of a professional wrestler. But what I'll go with what Kyle said, even though I'd still Steve, Scott's a good choice because Scott not only was like what somebody that doesn't watch wrestling would think a wrestler looked like, but Scott was fucking fantastic. He was a great professional wrestler. Like Scott Hall doesn't get enough credit.
I agree.
For being like he gets enough credit for his charisma and his character and all that, but Scott Hall, the wrestler, doesn't get enough credit for being the wrestler that he was.
Right.
In my opinion.
I kind of had a tough time with this one because I had two guys that were in my mind as I thought about it. And so I'm going to say both and then I'll say who I picked ultimately. The first guy that I thought was one of the biggest rising stars of the year was Brian Pillman. I think that even though 89, 90, 91, he was there. He was doing great things. He was this young up and comer, et cetera, et cetera. I think 92, he really came into his own and started developing.
You could time in with Steve a little bit on that.
Yeah, as a star, as opposed to a good hand. You know what I mean? But the guy I ultimately went with over Pillman for 92 as the rising star was Shawn Michaels. This was the year
certainly coming into his own.
Yeah, this was the year that he became the Heartbreak Kid. And, he started out the year just having great matches with guys like Tito Santana and et cetera. And by the end of the year, he was the IC champ and had that, as Aaron alluded to earlier in the show, had that great match with Brett at Survivor Series. So he was my pick. Let's see who the readers of the torch picked. 1992 Rising Star, number 3, Too Cold Scorpio.
That's a good one.
Not a bad choice.
Number 2, at that point, I could see this, Brian Christopher.
Okay.
Yeah.
And number 1, I happen to be right this time, Shawn Michaels.
It makes sense for the timeline.
Those were the picks. All right, this one's interesting. I think this one's going to be fun. Career tailspin of 1992. Who was in a tailspin in 92, Archie?
I'm going to get some heat for this.
You might not. You never know.
Right after he finished up his feud with Macho Man, he head out the door and he headed for WCW.
I know you're picking, and it's probably mine.
I am picking Jake the Snake Roberts.
I did too.
I feel that this is where he really started that downward turn and never recovered. He went from high-profile feuds and always involved in a match that was just before the main event, if not the main event, whether he was face or heel, and he went to WCW. We got those Halloween Havoc vignettes for the Spin the Wheel, Make the Deal, and then he feuded with Sting, and he was out the door again.
All right,
that's actually mine, and it's sad, really, and it's not. how do I say, like Jake's career tailspin was partially his fault, but not entirely his fault.
Right.
If Bill Watts would have been able to, and I don't even want to blame Bill Watts entirely, but if Bill Watts would have been able to look past possibly his personal dislike for Jake Roberts,
Right.
and use Jake Roberts to his full potential, it could have been so much better.
Oh, yeah.
But at the end of the day, I also understand that Bill Watts was probably looking at Jake Roberts and was like, I know your personal track.
Right.
That you're not a reliable human being. You know?
Right.
Kyle?
The Ultimate Warrior.
A good pick.
A good pick, definitely.
He did start his OnlyFans in '92 when he came out at SummerSlam looking naked. But anyway,
This is it. This is when I think the proof off the fucking rose with this guy.
as a matter of fact, this is when the Root died. Probably.
I mean, yeah, granted they brought him back in 96, 98, but it just like this was probably his one chance to fucking regain anything from WrestleMania 6.
Yep.
And it just shits the bed. I mean, you know, think about it, because not only do you have this big jacked up steroid guy, the Ultimate Warrior comes out with the face paint and everything else. On WCW, we have Sting, who's doing it better.
Right.
Two, like I said, you start to see the changing of the guard, because soon Hogan's out, Warrior's out. It's now Shawn and Brett and Razor and you know.
Right. You're speaking to me, Warrior. My pick, I guess I kind of went very deep on this, but attendance is down. Popularity of pro wrestling on a national basis, not with fans like us, but with mainstream fans, is nil. You know, the bottom's kind of fallen out to the point where WWF's looking to expand into Europe and stuff because that's where shit's still popular.
Oh, Vince?
No, Hulk Hogan. He decides early in the year as Hogan, master politician. Hulk Hogan's like, business is down, brother. I want to do a retirement angle. You know, like Hogan sees the writing on the wall. He's not the draw he once was. So I'm going to do a retirement angle, and I'll come back when the sun comes up.
Right. And when you put the belt on somebody that could actually lead the company, like
I'll come back and then beat him for it, and that didn't work out for him either. But anyway, I give it to Hogan. Like, I think 92 is finally and you know, we can fast forward to 96 when he reinvented himself.
Right.
But to me, from 92 to when he turned Hollywood Hogan was just another guy. He wasn't a key factor.
Look at 94 when he goes to WCW. It's kind of a cool thing for like the first month or two.
And then it becomes...
But then, Hulk, who do you want to work with? Can I work with everybody I worked with from like 87 to like 91?
Yeah.
The reason I wouldn't say it's a career tailspin.
Well, we're talking in the context. We're talking in the context of that year, though. Like, we don't know the future.
But no, I'm still saying that. The reason I wouldn't say it's a career tailspin is because he was still making Hulk Hogan fucking money.
Right.
He was still
Jake disappeared until like 95.
Jake went to WCW and had a multi-million-dollar contract when he went there, and then Bill Watts took over. And Bill Watts said, "You're not worth this. I'm going to pay you $500 a match."
And Bill Watts gave him the Archie Mitchell deal with cheeseburgers. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and that's why I'd say it wasn't a career tailspin. for Hogan. It was a creative tailspin for Hogan, if that makes sense.
Here's the thing. Again, I'll argue Aaron's point too. Hogan still stayed in the mainstream. He was still at WrestleMania. He still went to WCW. Jake disappeared for like 3 years after his WCW
Right.
stint. You know, he was out of the limelight.
Hogan wasn't eating fucking Whataburgers in a goddamn ditch.
Right.
Jake was in the ditch going, "What's a burger?"
The hell's
Warrior.
Oh, what's that on my jacket? Chocolate?
Here's what
the
here's what the readers of the voted in 1992 career tailspin number 3. Hulk Hogan.
Already got that.
Number 3, Hulk Hogan. Number 2, Ron Simmons.
Wow, really?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, in 92, he went from
tailspinned a little bit.
Yeah, he went from world champ. The problem with Ron was they never. Okay, Bill Watts.
Bill wanted to go with him, but he didn't have anybody to give him.
Let's be honest about Bill Watts. Bill Watts is a racist, but Bill Watts is a money racist. But no, Bill Watts is a racist, but he's like, well, we're down south in Alabama, so we better have a black champion. So anyway, Bill Watts never got behind Ron Simmons 100% as champion. He made Simmons champion because he knew that it would draw in the markets he wanted to draw in, but he still focused on Sting. So Ron Simmons, unfortunately, as fucking-tastic as Ron Simmons is, as a world champion, he got to defend against mid-card heels.
That's
what I just said.
1 second.
They made Ron the champ, but they didn't give him anybody. They gave him Barbarian.
Yeah, and that's not a knock on Barbarian.
I love Barbarian.
I'm going to play devil's advocate real quick for Ron Simmons' Sting thing. I'm not saying that fucking Bill Watts isn't a fucking old racist, but
he is, and he was, and he always will be.
I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is, if you have Ron Simmons and you have Sting, and you look at the money you're paying Sting, you're going to be like, well, fuck, we're paying him all this money. We better fucking use him.
Or you could tell him, like Jake Roberts, you're $500 a week and a cheeseburger.
Yeah, but...
I'm just playing devil's advocate to your devil's advocate.
I think that's the problem.
I have a
the
dumb
problem
question.
is, Kyle, we are both devil's advocates.
I have a dumb question that I can't remember. I can't believe I forgot this. Who did Simmons lose the world title to?
Vader.
Was it Vader? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, he won from Vader, lost to Vader.
He beat Vader for the title in front of a black audience. And then Vader beat him for a title in front of a white audience. And there you go. There's Bill Watts booking, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, so who was number 1?
Number 1. And actually, when I thought about it, this isn't a bad pick by the readers of the torch. Tailspin of 1992, Owen Hart.
Wow. Owen really wasn't doing anything before 92, though.
But no, before 92, he was seen as like a Brian Pillman type where he was an up-and-coming rising star. And then by the time you get into 92, and this is no hate on Coco, but by 92, Coco was, past his prime. He gets saddled with Coco and pajama pants, and then he gets tobacco spit in his face by Skinner at WrestleMania.
Right.
And just overall, I can't disagree. I mean, I disagree with who's number 1, but Owen really did have a career tailspin in 92.
I guess.
All right, guys. Tag team of the year, 1992. Archie?
For me, I'm a huge Dangerous Alliance fan, and it had to be Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko.
Okay.
They were, I believe they were known as the Enforcers, as the tag team name. Mm-hmm. And they played off of each other so well. Arn being the brutish, enforcer, and Zbyszko being the chicken shit heel, but with a good background as a brawler. And I mean, they were a great tag team. I think they were 3-time tag team champions. feuds with Scorpio and Bagwell, Ricky and Shane Douglas, and Ricky Steamboat, Dustin and Barry Windham. And then they were interchangeable with Bobby Eaton every now and then, too. So it kind of made them a great tag team.
They called Larry the Cruncher.
Yes.
Cruncher.
The Cruncher.
He broke Barry Windham's hand in the door.
Yeah. Which that's funny because they pull up to that event and like Bischoff's waiting to interview him, and then fucking Barry and fucking Dustin pull up in this Porsche, and Barry's going to get out, and fucking Larry kicks the door and crushes Barry's hand.
No, Arn grabs his hand, pulls it forward, and then here comes Liz Zbyszko and goes crunch. So it was all set
and
up.
crunches his hand, but then Dustin's like, shit. And then he just like kind of jumps from the passenger seat
into the
driver's seat and just looks at Bischoff. I was like, we got to go to the hospital. And he drives away. And Larry and Eric's just like, all right.
That gave me a great idea.
What?
When we have a really good show, we won't be the Pro Wrestling Porch. We'll be the Pro Wrestling Porsche. But anyway, that was going back to earlier in the show when I fucked up. Aaron, what was your favorite tag team of 92?
Well, I'm gonna tell you my favorite tag team, but I'm also gonna tell you what Arn, that I've heard through several shoot interviews, used to call Larry Zbyszko when they were a tag team. Do you know what he called Larry Zbyszko?
What?
He used to call him the cigar store Indian.
Why?
Because Arn said he would be out there bumping and doing everything, and Larry just stood on the corner doing nothing. Like a cigar store Indian.
That's funny.
But my best tag team of 1992 is the Steiner Brothers.
Agreed. Spoiler alert. Agreed. The Steiners had...
You don't get much better than Rick and Scott. From
and
like
you
89, from 89 to 93, you get nothing better than Rick and Scott.
And hey, listen, in 92, you have Rick and Scott versus Dr. Death and Terry Gordy. Holy shit. Those are the best tag matches of that year. Hands down, end of story. Just four guys beating the fuck out of each other. Like we talked about it earlier when we talked about the match of the week. Real, like wrestling looking real and looking like a fight. At this time, in this era, nobody did that better than the Steiners in tag team wrestling.
No. Mine is also the Steiner Brothers.
So I'm the odd man out.
If nothing else,
you are.
Because if you want to talk about wrestling tag teams and everything else, because we're not talking about the future, we're talking about this year.
Exactly.
The fact is, in November 1992, they signed with the World Wrestling Federation.
Mm-hmm.
Everything they've done with WCW up to this point, and now they're going to the big show.
And getting totally misused, but that's a whole nother show.
Again, like I said, that's future. We don't know that. We just, at this point, in 92, it's like, holy shit. The Steiner Brothers are going to the World Wrestling Federation. Like,
mm-hmm. And then at Royal Rumble 93, they almost kill Blake Beverly. All right, so let's see what the readers of the Torch voted in 92. Number 3, you were almost there, Archie. Arn Anderson and Bobby Eaton. Number 2.
Quick, I'm sorry. Bobby Eaton doesn't get enough love.
No,
I agree.
God, no.
I agree with that.
Bobby Eaton is, okay, you know how they say Ric Flair could wrestle with a broom and have a good match? Bobby Eaton could tag with a broomstick and have a good tag team.
Yeah.
So number 2 in the tag team of the year for 92, the Steiners.
Oh.
Should have been number 1. I want to circle something.
Number 1, and I mentioned them earlier as in this conversation, Steve Williams and Terry Gordy.
It makes sense. They were big in Japan, and when they came into WCW, they were on a tear. So,
all right. Best promos of 92, Archie.
I talked about it earlier. Best promo of 1992, Ric Flair's Royal Rumble promo.
And he consistently had the best promos of 92, so I voted for him as well.
Yep.
I did as well.
Same here.
So we don't have to debate that much. Best promos, number 3, and I will totally agree with this, Cactus Jack.
Mm-hmm.
I just said earlier he was kind of coming into his finally like fitting into those shoes, with the Cactus Jack character in 92. Number 2, Jim Cornette. And number 1, Ric Flair. 1992 worst promos. Archie?
Anything Hulk Hogan. That's what I wrote down. Anything Hulk Hogan.
Okay, brother.
I'll be honest with you. As a kid, I guess I was giddy. It's Hulk Hogan. He's doing his shtick, whatever. As an adult, when I look back at 1992, it was the same damn promo every night. Whether he was talking about Sid, Ric Flair, or Macho Man, they were interchangeable. You just had to switch the name.
And that's kind of what I was getting at with the tailspin thing, with the career tailspin thing. It was getting stale.
I agree.
85 through 89-ish, maybe 90. Maybe exiting the feud with Slaughter. His Hulk Hogan shtick worked. And I didn't put him as my worst promos, but I definitely see where you're coming from.
Yeah, it was just
because it was just getting so stale. It was the same. It was the same insert heel name here promo, and
then say your prayers, take your vitamins. What you gonna do, brother? And
drink your milk. Yeah, Aaron, worst promos in 92.
Virgil. That guy was fucking hot garbage. He said nothing that made sense.
$20 a promo. Too legit to quit.
Virgil cutting a promo made Brutus Beefcake look like Buddy Rogers. He was fucking garbage. Like he cut and I've never seen Virgil do a promo that was good. Never. In my entire life.
Nope.
But in 92, it was the absolute worst because they let him do like 2 of them on fucking Primetime or Superstars. Like Virgil was like he was fucking garbage. Human garbage. Fuck Virgil.
I'm gonna have to go with Ultimate Warrior.
You should have went with Virgil.
At least Virgil was somewhat coherent.
I love it. Like that.
I'm speechless.
So
I don't know what to say. Poor Virgil, if he listens to this show.
And my vote was.
If Virgil's listening to this, and if Virgil is a member of our Facebook group, please unsubscribe and stop listening.
My vote was for Van Hammer.
He was pretty bad.
He was not pretty bad. He was fucking terrible.
He was terrible.
Always terrible. D.D. Page. That
was
92. I know, that's not 92. All right, let's see what the readers of the Torch said. Worst promos, 92. Let's see here. Number 3, Van Hammer. Number 2, Tony Atlas.
Yeah, figured it out.
And number 1, 92 worst promos, Eric Watts.
Fuck, it should have been Virgil.
Kyle mentioning him earlier totally threw me off my game that I just didn't think of Eric Watts this time around.
All right. We're down to 2 two topics. First is most underutilized in 1992. Archie?
I looked around at a list of wrestlers that there were in 1992. Couple popped up. One of them being Brian Pillman, who we mentioned earlier. Another one for the WWF side of things was Owen Hart, who was mentioned earlier as well.
Mm-hmm.
But in my opinion, Dustin Rhodes was underutilized and should have been pushed a little harder. He busted his ass, plain and simple. They could have put him in there with anybody, and he gave a great match every time. Was a fantastic tag team wrestler with Ricky Steamboat and Barry Windham. I love the way that when Windham comes back from injury, they kind of like shooed Ricky away. But yeah, Dustin Rhodes has got my vote.
I can see that.
Choice.
Aaron?
Nate. I'll tell mine in a minute, but hasn't there been like shoots out there with like Bruce Pritchard and a couple people where they said in like 92 they thought about bringing Dustin in to fucking work with Hogan?
Yeah, and I don't remember the specifics, but I definitely remember hearing that. Yes,
because he's a big boy and he can work and whatnot.
But then shit went south with Hogan because he had the career tailspin of 92.
Yeah,
anyway,
Hogan would have shit on him anyway. It wouldn't have mattered. He wouldn't have given him anything.
It'd have been hard times for Dustin Rhodes, baby.
So this is most underused of 92?
Yes.
My most underused of 92 is Haku.
That's a good pick.
That's a good pick. Yes, it is.
I know. That's why I picked him. I think he could have been a good bruiser and like maybe like got a good like intercontinental title feud out of him. He could have done a lot of good shit with the guy and like Haku. I could put Haku on my list for a lot of years up until like he became Mang and they put him in WCW and then they actually kind of started doing shit with him in WCW. I think Haku is a super underutilized wrestler through his entire career.
I agree with you on that. When he was in WCW as Ming, he didn't have to be in the Dungeon of Doom or with the Barbarian again. They could have just let him be, the monster heel that he was, but they had to saddle him, I guess, with a tag team partner. For lack
Which
of,
I love the Faces of Fear. Faces of Fear is fucking awesome.
I love him, but my point is Haku could have been a monstrous United States or World Television Champion, an unstoppable heel. He didn't need a tag team partner. Thank God he had one that actually was great with him, Barbarian. But as Haku in the WWF, with Bobby Heenan, he was awesome.
Yeah, and like I said, I think in like 92, they could have done, I honestly think like a Bret Hart, Haku Intercontinental title feud would have been fucking great.
How about a singles feud with Davey Boy?
Yeah, anything.
No title involved.
Anything with Haku would have been
off
great.
on each other.
Yeah. So that's my choice.
Kyle?
Because, I don't know, you might, hopefully you can see where I'm coming from with this, but...
You say Eric Watts again.
No. In 1992, underutilized Scott Norton.
Okay, not a bad choice.
Always been a fan of Scott Norton. He is that holdover of that old school, what pro wrestler used to be. And granted, like I said, he was with New Japan and stuff, and he was coming over for WCW. But still, it's like, can you imagine if they had put some shit behind him?
He was
like
physical. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Scott Norton is to singles wrestling what the Steiners are to tag team wrestling, if that makes sense in this time frame. He had the potential to be that badass guy you put in matches with a Steve Williams or a Terry Gordy or who have you, and maybe not necessarily a world's champion, but most definitely like a U.S. or a TV champion.
Yep,
definitely.
Yeah,
he could have been a WWF guy too.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's be honest.
Absolutely.
That fucking chest and fucking goddamn, that guy was.
I think he might have even been on my list of, like, you know, when we were talking about like guys that never worked for the WWF. Like, why didn't this guy work for the WWF? I think Norton was on my list.
Mm-hmm.
Like Norton.
Oh, he's such a badass.
How he never had any title in WCW is beyond me.
How he never made it to the WWF is beyond me.
That too, but
Which is what I just said.
When he was with Buff Bagwell, they could have been tag team champions and a series contender.
Yeah.
Or put him with anybody. He was with Ice Train. They could have been a tag. They were feuding with the Steiner brothers, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
You know, it just made no sense. It's like they let him be who he was, but yet they also let him get squashed by the Giant 3 or 4 times. You know.
I kind of had two. Again, this is back to my kind of tie with Michaels and Pillman, but I kind of had two this year in the most underutilized in 92. One of them was Bobby Eaton. Because I think even though Bobby Eaton was never fantastic on the mic, okay? He was a simple promo guy. But that didn't matter, because if you could find someone to put with Bobby Eaton, like Cornette, like fucking Teddy Long, I don't care. Put a mouthpiece with Bobby Eaton,
right,
and then have them brag about he's the best wrestler in this business. Again, maybe not a world champion, but you could put. I mean, and they put him with Paulie.
What do they say about like Bobby? He'd be like, "What'd you do, buddy?" I think that's how he does.
Yeah.
I listened to a shoot interview with Cornette once about him walking out of WCW, him and Stan Lane. And Bobby walks up to Corny and he's like, "I want to go with you." And Cornette looks at him and goes, "Dude, you still have a year left on your contract, and they're $250,000 a year."
Actually, what they do, what Cornette said was that Stan and Corny were like, "We're quitting."
Right.
Done.
Bobby's like, "I'll go with you. Let's go."
And all he sees is Stan and Bobby. All he sees is Stan and Corny picking up their bags, and Bobby's like, "What are we doing?
Where are we going?
Like, we just quit." And he goes, "All right, I'll go with you." And they're like, "No, buddy, you got kids and shit. You got to stay."
Year left. Bobby had a year left, and it was a $250,000 contract. Why would you leave?
That reminds
Go ahead and stay.
Reminds me of Jericho when he left for fucking WWF. Ralph was like, "When are we going to New York?"
Right, when are we going to New York?
Jericho's like, "How the fuck does he know fucking New York?"
Bobby was my runner-up for the year, but actually my underutilized of the year was what the Torch readers apparently picked as the career tailspin of the year, and that was Owen Hart.
Owen Hart? Wow, okay. I was with Owen too. I had him. I was juggling him.
He should have been in the mix much sooner than he was.
He didn't have to be going for a title either. He could have just been in a good feud, not with Skinner.
Yes,
not with Skinner.
Can I say this? I know we're not supposed to look at this with like hindsight or whatever.
Oh, go ahead.
But I'm glad he wasn't. I'm really glad he wasn't.
Because
say you put Owen Hart in 1992 as babyface Owen Hart, and they try to push him and it doesn't work. I don't think that Vince McMahon has the thought process of, okay, let's go with him. Let's try it. I think it wouldn't have worked in 92, and I think Vince would have said, why would we go with him in 93? He was a failure earlier.
Right.
So I'm kind of glad they didn't.
That's a good point. He might have ended up being fired for all we know and ended up in WCW.
Right.
Yeah. So thank God it didn't happen.
He would have been feuding with Eric Watts.
So here's what the torch readers decided were the most underutilized in 92. Number 3 is one that had I looked at this before, again, that's why I don't look at them before I make my picks. Had I looked at this, I probably would have thrust him above Owen. And that is our friend Raven, Scotty Flamingo. Underutilized.
What about me? What about the Flamingo?
Just one of my favorites, just promos and attitude. And at this time, that Scotty Flamingo character was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Johnny Polo was cool.
Yeah, just overall, just misused. Number 2, Arn Anderson.
Okay.
And number 1, I don't agree with this. By this time, he's fallen out of my graces. I'm sorry, Terry Taylor.
Yeah, that's not there's no.
Like if we were talking about 1989 in the WWF,
or 90, even 90 in the WC when he went back to WCW. Why? That's underused. What he's underused because he can't do anything anymore. They've run out of things to give him.
I've never seen the appeal of Terry Taylor. Ever.
No, dude, seriously, no. And I'm going to.
No, he had it.
I'm going to be pretentious here, Kyle. I'm going to be pretentious.
Terry Taylor was fantastic in the ring.
If you've never seen the potential in Terry Taylor, I want you to hop on YouTube or WWE Network before it gets peacocked in the butt and watch Terry Taylor in Mid-South. In like 85, 86, even 87. Then you'll see what I'm saying about potential. Because that dude at that time was, and you guys, everybody can virtually slap me if you want to, but if he would have been used properly from that moment on, he could have been as big as Bret Hart. He was that fucking good.
I'll go back and look.
But anyway, our final category, if you will, for 1992 is most over pushed. And Kyle had a robber baron laugh there. Archie, what's your pick for most over pushed?
Well, let me tell you something, brother.
Think so?
Hulk Hogan was overpushed in 1992. Yes,
but he only lasted 4 months into the year.
Yeah, and in that 4 months, he stole the main event from Flair and Savage.
All right.
He acted like a total heel when he got pushed out of the Royal Rumble and pulled Sid out. And basically, he did the same old, boring, tired shit.
And that is a valid point.
So,
Aaron?
I'm going to go with the human clump, Virgil.
You didn't like Virgil's theme music?
In 92?
You didn't like Virgil's theme music?
I could see 91 because that's when he was pushed with DiBiase, but 92, by the time 92 came around at WrestleMania, he was an 8-man tag.
Right.
And
SummerSlam, he's jobbing the nails.
That was more than he deserved. It was more than he deserved. And this piece of shit was like on every Superstars.
He was too legit to quit.
This clump was on every Superstars. Okay? This clump was on every Superstars. Every single Superstars, this clump had a match with a jobber. And he was able to cut a fucking promo. And Sean Mooney was like, oh, welcome to the event center. Let's see what the human clump Virgil has to say. And then they go to this stupid, shitty promo with this piece of shit. And then he'd cut a shitty promo. And then they make us watch a shitty match. And they were trying to make you think that Virgil was something that he wasn't. And he was a piece of shit. He sucks. Virgil sucks.
And Vince McMahon was like, that's a good clump, pal.
Nate.
Fuck that clump.
When I know it just passed. When's Aaron's birthday again?
March 3rd.
March 3rd. Okay, I know what I'm getting him for his birthday next year.
Oh,
It better not be a clump.
No, it's going to be the Virgil's cameo. What is
it's going to be a Virgil Elite.
No, I'm getting him a cameo video from Virgil with his nut hanging out.
You should make a clump.
Hey, look at my clump.
And put a Virgil head on it.
Look at my clump, Aaron.
I promise you, there will be multiple Virgil gifts coming to Aaron on his birthday.
Virgil was over pushed in 90.
Okay, if you say so. I'm not arguing the point with you. Fuck that guy.
Kyle, over pushed, 1992.
I might be in the minority here, but Sid Justice.
Okay.
You had a guy that wasn't ready, and they just kept pushing and pushing and pushing this guy to the point where people got sick of it. I don't know if it's so much it was Hogan, because had you had the right opponent for Hogan, i.e. maybe Flair or even Savage, maybe things would be different. But
I curse you.
But I understand the point. I understand the appeal of Sid Justice, of fucking Psycho Sid. I get it. But they just pushed it.
He hadn't fully found himself.
No.
I don't know that he ever did. But what I will tell you is the most that I was ever a fan of Sid was in 1997.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually dug him in 95 with the feud with Shawn. I'm going to agree with Kyle, and I'm. You know what, Kyle? You changed my mind. I'm still going to say who I picked, but you changed my mind. Yes, he was not ready to main event WrestleMania yet.
Can I say this?
Sure.
This. That's funny.
All right.
Vince McMahon. I'm not even going to say the WWF. Vince McMahon is the only person that ever knew exactly how to use Sid Vicious.
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely true.
I agree with that.
Yes.
Like we have this big fucking monster.
As much
has
as
no fucking idea how to talk.
As much as Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan found their synergy and created the probably second biggest boom in wrestling history besides Austin, I agree with you, Aaron. Sid, to me, is what Vince McMahon visualizes as a professional wrestler.
Yeah. And then he got him, and he was like, I think he's kind of a mental midget. And he can't speak. So let's not call him a mental midget. Let's just say he's psycho. So when he speaks improper, we'll just say, "Oh no, he's not."
God, that guy's crazy.
He's not a Riri. He's crazy. He's cray cray. You know, he's cray cray Sid. He's psycho. He has no idea what he's saying because he's insane.
You are half the man that I am, and I have half the brain
that you have.
Do. You know. When you look back at that promo and you see the look of astonishment on Sid's face after he delivers the line, you realize he for a split second he goes, "Damn, I fucked up."
What? No.
And then Nash is keeling over in the ring.
I just picture Sid like nervous farting in the ring.
Now let's be honest.
Or when he fucks up and he looks at Jim Ross and he goes, "Can we do that again?" And Jim's like, "No,
we're live, buddy.
We're live, pal. We're live, pal." Kyle changed my mind. I agree now with Sid.
So
however,
cray cray, but really a Riri.
Right? Yeah, cray cray Riri, cray cray Riri. My original pick, though, just to put it out there, was Van Hammer.
Okay. Man, the Maxon boys have been hating on Van Hammer all week.
Well, we hate
Van Hammer's trash.
No, Van Hammer's garbage. If he came on this show.
The only
if
thing
he
worse
came
than,
on this show, like most guests, Archie,
Mm-hmm.
I would be like, "Oh, this is a show. I'm political. I'm a host." All right, sir, you really were good in one match in the ring. So let's talk about that match for a half hour. If Van Hammer came on the show, I'd be like, "What's up, you fucking trash bag? you no good fucking piece of shit." But anyway,
Who told you were good enough to join the flock?
yeah, you fucking idiot. Anyway,
I have a question. Wait a minute. I have a really funny question.
but hold on. Let me finish
What?
just 1 second.
Go ahead.
I'll wrap it up.
Which
The
is what I
reason
wish Van Hammer's dad would have done.
The reason that I am curtailing to Kyle, even though I think that any push for Van Hammer was an overpush, is that I don't think, even though I am a fan and I do like him, the reason I will agree with Kyle that Sid was overpushed in 92 is that as good as I think that he could be as a monster heel, and as much as I liked him, he was not ready for the main event of fucking WrestleMania.
Yep.
So there you go. That puts it over the top. Although I originally picked Van Hammer, I agree with Kyle. It's Sid. So let's see what the torch readers said, and then Kyle or Archie, you can finish your thought.
Okay.
Come on,
Number 3, I do
Give me a
not
clue.
agree. Number 3, I do not agree with at all. Because I'm a mark for this guy, Tatanka.
Wow.
How the hell did they say he was over?
How can you overpush somebody who's only been in the company a year?
Well, and he's so good.
Well, see,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna discount that I like Tatanka, but I can understand it. At that time, I can understand at that time in '92, people were getting sick of gimmicks, and they were getting sick of the cartoon, and Tatanka was kind of cartoonish. I can see that.
Number 2 was Van Hammer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 1, and once I read this, I was like, oh, that might be the winner. Number 1, overpushed, 1992, Eric Watts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kyle had it right all along when he said it earlier.
Can I say this about Eric Watts?
You can say it if it's
He
negative.
sucked.
I'm gonna say this. I'm seriously gonna say this about Eric Watts. If they would have called him Eric Williams,
He still would have sucked.
people wouldn't have hated him as much.
Yeah, but he still would have
But he
sucked.
still would have sucked.
He sucked. He
He
was
wasn't
terrible.
He
Now,
wasn't terrible.
He
On to
was
my
terrible.
On to my Van Hammer question.
Absolutely terrible. He was fucking terrible. Okay. Aaron,
He wasn't. He wasn't. Virgil bad.
It is. No, listen. It is
Was it Virgil
one.
bad?
He wasn't
Listen.
Van Hammer bad.
No,
He wasn't.
Yeah,
no. Hold on. Shh. 1B, Eric Watts. 1A, Angelo Mosca Jr.
Ooh.
Nah.
Yeah.
Nah.
All right. On to
Angelo
my.
Mosca
He wasn't-
Jr. Angelo Mosca Jr.
He wasn't as bad as Virgil.
Yes, he was.
I disagree.
Guy
Eric
didn't know how
Watts
to
was
throw
fucking terrible.
Eric Watts didn't know how to throw a drop kick properly.
I'm not even trying to tell you guys that Eric Watts was good.
Eric Watts couldn't throw a sandbag properly.
Can
I'm
I
just
ask
trying
my
to
Van
tell you
Hammer
guys that
question?
Eric Watts wasn't good. I'm trying to tell you he wasn't as bad as Virgil. That's all I'm trying to tell you.
All right. On to my Van Hammer question.
Yes.
Virgil
All right.
Virgil can't even spell STF.
And Eric Watts can't do an STF.
He can at least
All right.
spell it.
All right. Van Hammer feuded with Cactus Jack and Abdullah the Butcher
Kinda.
in the early 90s. When he joined the flock, did anybody do what I did and say, you still fucking work here? Like, nobody saw Van Hammer for like 3 years up until he joined the flock.
Well, and then
Did you know that he was supposed to be private stash and not major stash? And when they told him that he was going to be private, he was going to be private stash. He thought that he told him that he didn't think that his rank in the MIA should be so low. So they were
Did
like,
he not realize the pun?
We'll call you major stash then.
Did he not realize the pun of him being the private stash? Because it was a stash.
Of course he didn't, because he's a fucking idiot.
Okay.
Come on to the show, Van Hammer. Is he dead?
I don't know.
No.
I don't think he is.
No, he's in jail though because he
might have to play an Aaron Dead or Alive. Is he dead?
Van Hammer's not dead, but
Hold on, I'll check.
He's not dead.
I'm checking.
He
did time. He's doing time because of his private stash.
No, he did. Van Hammer did something terrible that I don't want to talk about on the show because it caused harm. It caused harm to other people, and I'm not going to make light of it.
Terrible?
No, but he
Okay.
he did something that I'm not going to make light of.
That's fine. He's alive and 61 years old.
But he did a crime. He did something stupid that I'm not going to make light of because it's not funny.
Leave it there.
Okay,
Aaron,
Nate,
I got
a question for you.
Sure.
And because we're going to be wrapping it up here, I got to know as much as all of our fans got to know.
Ooh.
Van Hammer, Kenny Omega.
They both have the same haircut.
Yeah, they kind of look alike.
Van Hammer, Kenny Omega.
Mm-hmm.
Van Hammer offends me less than Kenny Omega.
Okay. Now we know.
Because Van Hammer did shitty things in the ring. Looked really bad.
At least trained.
Looked really bad in the ring.
But he never wrestled a blow-up doll.
No, he didn't. And that's what I was about to say. We talked about it earlier during the match of the week. Whether shitty or not, at least it looked like a fight. When Kenny Omega goes in the ring, it looks choreographed. Kenny Omega, okay, Van Hammer is really bad professional wrestler. Okay? Kenny Omega is really bad in Michael Jackson's Thriller video. Thank you, Kenny. Go fuck yourself. I mean, and he probably would.
Yeah.
Or at least, one of his wrestling opponents.
Aaron.
Archie and I had a great exchange this week, guys.
Yes.
Behind the scenes.
Yes.
Archie was going to send me something that I won in World Championship Customs, by the way, if you haven't joined that group yet.
Why the fuck
and he
not?
was joking with me that he sent me a Kenny Omega mystery box instead. And I don't remember what I asked was in it.
It was French fries shaped in Kenny Omega's hair and a ketchup face. It was ramen noodles.
It was something
ramen
like
noodles.
that.
It was jazz finger gloves.
I think I said blow up dolls.
It was a blow up doll. Jazz finger gloves. It was the whole 9 yards. I got it on Pro Wrestling Tees for $39.99.
Sparklers. I put sparklers in there too. Yes. Fuck Kenny Omega. You know what? Van Hammer, greater than sign, Kenny Omega. Fuck you, Kenny Omega, you piece of shit.
How many did you have correctly?
How many did I have correctly?
Yes.
Oh, Archie and Aaron are still doing their gimmick. Sorry, folks.
Yeah.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Only one.
Civilized people are speaking.
I love it. And I'm supposed to be the host.
Civilized people are speaking. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Damn it. We tied.
Okay.
I had 6 as well. Nate, how many did you have right?
He doesn't fucking know.
I don't know. I'm busy producing this shit.
Oh, okay.
I really don't know. I wasn't keeping track.
I know. I'm only joking.
I know.
I had 6,
I had 6.
but we all know Virgil is the worst.
I don't know that for sure. You got to prove it to me on paper. Who's that? Oh,
Right there. It's on
No.
paper.
no.
Virgil. Yeah. So I proved it on paper.
All right. So the name of this week's episode is Virgil's the Worst.
Did I win? Winner, winner, chicken dinner. What's
Not
going on
buying
right
you a
here?
chicken
Why is
dinner.
Nate on here twice?
I don't know.
Don't worry
scared.
about it.
Oh, echoes. All right. Take us home, Nate.
All right, well, quick. So that way we can have a winner between Aaron and Archie. We're going to play a quick game.
Okay.
Oh.
Virgil has won the best gimmick and a feud of the year in what year?
Never.
91.
Nope.
Okay. I don't want to play your stupid game.
Like, where are you pulling this from, Kyle?
Server newsletter.
Huh?
Oh, I'm going to say 98 in WCW.
Well,
with the
hold
West
on.
Texas Rednecks.
No, let me ask the question again.
Okay.
Ask the question again.
All right. In what year, according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, did Virgil win best gimmick and feud of the year?
I'm going to say 98 or 99. Whenever the West Texas Rednecks had their feud with the No Limit Soldiers.
96.
So 98.
Aaron is
98. Aaron won?
96.
winner.
Because he was in the NWO.
Yep. It has,
You got me again, Maxim.
according to the Observer newsletter, in 96, he won.
I would have beaten you this week if it wasn't for your friend with his Wendy's.
You know what that means?
What?
Michael Wall Street also won that award.
Yes.
Which means the Observer's trash. And nobody should read it.
That's why we go with the porch.
Because it's written by us.
We go with the porch. I love it. All right, folks.
Man.
Aaron,
Huh.
give your parting words for this week.
Give my what?
Your parting words for this week. I didn't stutter.
I didn't hear you though. My
He's
parting
mad.
words are that I'm the winner chicken dinner, and I've enjoyed this show. And if you people haven't, sucks to be you. And I still think that Greg is a piece of shit.
Okay.
If you didn't listen to Reliving the Extreme this week, did you guys listen yet, Kyle, Archie?
I haven't listened just yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm
So,
stunned as who Greg is.
I know
He's a piece of shit. He's a piece of shit.
Okay,
And
we're
he should
trying
go
to
to
sign
sleep.
off here. Hey, Aaron, stop. We're trying to sign off here, I know. But Archie, you have to hear this.
Okay.
And listeners of We Can't Wrestle, if you're not listening to Reliving the Extreme,
Go
Aaron,
now. Go now.
ECW's Chad Austin and myself, we are talking about ECW from the beginning to the end, week over week. But anyway, this week I shared listener feedback. We had someone that said he really liked the chemistry of the hosts and was enjoying following along. We actually had a guy that said that he was listening along now longer than he ever had watching ECW because watching along with us was getting him through it in the beginning.
Okay.
But my favorite one, and Aaron's least favorite one, was this guy named Greg, who kind of addressed his letter or his response or his feedback to Chad, and he said, Chad Austin, oh, Greg, ditch the co-hosts. They're atrocious.
Oh, God.
I read it and I laughed my fucking ass off. And I was like, the minute I read it, I was like, Aaron needs to hear this.
Well, fuck you, Greg.
Greg's a garbage
Asshole.
person. He's a clump. He's a clump.
Him and Virgil, Eric Watts, and Van Hammer all need to go.
Fucking clumps.
Clumps. The clumps star Eddie Murphy and Virgil.
And Greg.
And Greg. It's the co-host. Oh. Okay.
Archie,
Yes.
your parting words.
Thank you all for joining us this evening. We always enjoy having you guys here listening to us and watching along when we do match reviews. Thank you to all of our people who put in match reviews because a lot of these have been great matches. And this is just a quick announcement with the moving of NXT to Tuesday nights on the USA Network. Living in the War here in We Can't Wrestle podcast on Facebook will be gone because if there's no Wednesday night shows, then there's no war going on.
AEW one.
AEW one. So Trolley Trivia will probably make its way to That's Not Wrestling, along with Nate Maxon when I can join him on Sunday nights. And we'll bring on a guest and try and get them to answer some questions.
And I want to say this. It is now the weekly skirmish. But I want to say, just real quick before I give Kyle his parting words and we sign off, I've always thought this Wednesday night war was bullshit.
I agree.
And here's why I say that. For every time you AEW marks, or you, Brian Alvarez, have put up the ratings, AEW beat NXT by X amount of thousand of viewers or whatever. That's because AEW can be watched, one time live on TNT, right?
Right.
NXT can then be watched on WWE Network by a company that has its own network
Right.
the next day.
Or DVR'd like people do. It's that simple.
And that's a fair point. But my thing is, I think that a lot of people watch AEW live because that's the way they can watch it.
Right.
And then they watch NXT the next day because they know it's going to be on the network.
Right, and nobody wants to stay up till 2 a.m. watching wrestling on a Wednesday night because they got to be at work the next day. So
exactly.
They watch it the next day.
AEW hasn't won the war because they're better. NXT is the best wrestling show on TV right now. I will stand by that all day long. AEW won because they are lame and don't have another outlet.
Well, not only that, they won because people are choosing to watch the live show first because they know they can get NXT tape somewhere else. But also, this is not the Monday Night Wars in the mid-'90s when you had to pick and choose because you only had a VCR. And there was no rerun for Raw at all. And Nitro used to come on at 12:30 at night on Monday night. This is not the same. This is much different.
Absolutely.
And ratings, Nate will back me up here because he told me that during a show a couple of months ago. Ratings really don't mean anything anymore when it comes to the numbers.
Nope. I watch AEW on an illegal
streaming app. So do I.
I don't even have cable. I only have internet, so I can't watch AEW live.
Right. That's why Nate and I aren't Nielsen families.
Ratings don't mean anything, but you know what does mean something? Heading on over to the AsylumWrestlingStore.com right now because this Saturday is going to be Dustin Rhodes.
Yeah, baby.
Call him the Natural.
Then followed up by Bret the Hitman Hart.
God damn.
They got Chris Hemme, Kelly, Mark Mero, Darby Allin. Who else?
Brooke Hogan.
Brooke Hogan.
Let me tell you something, sister.
In the asylum, while you are still chained by COVID, you can meet and greet and get your autographs from these wrestling stars in the asylum.
And six of them will sign their panties.
Here's the cool thing.
One of them's probably Darby Allin.
If you don't want to do a live meet and greet and you just want something signed, they have that.
You can still do it. Yep. Or if you don't want anything signed and you just want to talk to the talent, we can do that too.
Absolutely.
I mean, big names, guys. So head on over there now because I'm telling you, tickets are going to go and they're going to go fast.
There are only 20 live meet and greets with Bret the Hitman Hart left. That means once those are sold out, you will not get to meet him virtually, face-to-face, and talk to him.
I'm just going to say this. When they had Tori Wilson on, those sold out very quick.
Yep.
What happened with Hemme and Kelly?
Kyle speaks the truth.
Absolutely. And last and certainly not least, I want to end the show with 3 letters and no more elaboration. WNR. It's coming. And
it's going to be all over your face.
New world order. We are taking over.
We are going to revolutionize things. We are going to change the game in wrestling podcasting and broadcasting this spring. And and like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm not going to say a lot now because I'm still finalizing things and working things out. But it's going to be a really big deal. So stay tuned. And that being said, thank you for joining us